Chapter 1. Naruto was snapped out of the Nine-Tails possession mode, not just by Tsunade's punch but also by his own realization. He had felt the tyrannical grip of the Nine-Tails power, and it left him shaken. He didn't want to become a slave to such overwhelming energy. Thank you, Naruto said quietly, checking himself and feeling relieved. His gratitude toward Tsunade was genuine. Jiraiya, too, let out a sigh of relief. The sight of Naruto in his tailed beast form had been terrifying, and the tailed beast bomb was a weapon of pure devastation. Watching Naruto regain control eased his fears for now. As Tsunade approached, Jiraiya flashed her a wide grin. Tsunade, I knew you cared about me, he said, his tone playful. Tsunade's response was immediate, a solid punch that sent Jiraiya sprawling. It's still the same strength, still the same familiar taste, Jiraiya muttered with a nostalgic smile, his face a mixture of pain and memories. Naruto stared, dumbfounded. This pervy uncle, is he actually a masochist, he muttered to himself, horrified. Even Kakashi turned his head slightly, as though pretending he didn't know Jiraiya. Tsunade brushed off Jiraiya and looked at the group sternly. Enough fooling around. I've made my decision. I'm going back to Konoha first. Her tone brooked no argument. While she felt deeply reluctant to delay her meeting with Uzumaki Chito, her sense of duty demanded she see the state of Konoha for herself. She also needed to visit her old teacher, the third Hokage, one last time. Naruto frowned. Tsunade-sama, if you go back to Konoha, you might not be able to come back, he said, voicing his concern. He already saw Tsunade as part of their team and didn't want to lose her to Konoha's chaos. Might Guy nodded in agreement. The current Konoha is not the Konoha you remember. Who knows what they'll do if you return. But Jiraiya shook his head firmly. The village is still the same. It's never changed, he said, his conviction unshaken. To him, Konoha was still the legacy of the first Hokage. Tsunade raised her hand to silence the growing argument. Enough, she said coldly, her voice carrying authority. I'll see for myself what Konoha has become. She stomped the ground with her chakra-enhanced strength, causing cracks to spiderweb across the surface. The display of power ensured everyone paid attention to her words. Turning to Naruto, she added, you go back to the land of whirlpools. I'll visit Konoha first, and then I'll come to the land of whirlpools to meet Lord Chito. But... Naruto began to protest but stopped when he saw the determination in Tsunade's eyes. She had made up her mind. Jiraiya, too, felt a flicker of joy at her decision until he heard the second part about her eventual trip to the land of whirlpools. His expression fell. Still, he clung to hope. Once she feels the warmth of Konoha again, she'll stay and become the fifth Hokage. He reassured himself. The village is still the same at its core. The decision had been made, and there was no longer a need for conflict. Tsunade stopped the skirmishes between the two sides and turned back to Naruto. Naruto, tell Chito-sama that I'll visit him soon, she instructed. Naruto hesitated before nodding. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a piece of seal paper. This is a protection seal my grandpa left me, he said. If you're in danger. Before he could finish, Tsunade snatched the paper from his hand. Thank you. I'll gladly take it, she said with a grin, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Naruto froze, his mouth agape. I shouldn't have shown it to her. He thought regretfully, realizing too late that it was impossible to get it back now. As Tsunade left with Jiraiya and Kakashi, Shizuan stayed behind. Naruto turned to her, puzzled. Why aren't you going with Tsunade-sama, he asked. Shizuan's expression was serious. Tsunade-sama told me to stay behind. If Konoha has truly changed, she doesn't want me to be used as a bargaining chip against her. Naruto frowned. If she knows this trip will be dangerous, why is she still going? Maybe it's because she still has feelings for the village, Shizuan replied softly. The group fell silent, each lost in their thoughts. Naruto glanced at the seal paper now in Tsunade's possession and felt a small sense of relief. At least she has some protection. Meanwhile, as Tsunade traveled back to Konoha, she couldn't help but toy with the seal paper. She ignored Jiraiya's attempts at conversation, her focus solely on the charm in her hand. What has the village become to make Uzumaki Chito so disappointed? She wondered. I need to see it for myself. As they approached Konoha, Tsunade began to notice something unusual. Strange ninjas seemed to be lurking everywhere, a development that only heightened her suspicions. Kakashi's shuriken flew with precision, striking one of the unknown figures in the head. Wandering ninjas, Kakashi said, identifying the fifth group of rogue shinobi they had encountered on this journey. The situation was far worse than when they had left. Without wasting any more time, the three quickened their pace, racing toward the gates of Konoha. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 0 comment. Vote. Chapter 2. Three figures moved swiftly through the jungle, leaving a trail of silence in their wake. Any ninja who dared to stand in their way and lacked a Konoha forward protector was dealt with decisively. As they approached Konoha, Hokage Rock loomed in the distance, a stark reminder of the village's legacy. The closer they got, the more patrols appeared. Anbu and route operatives began emerging from the shadows, their vigilance evident. Who goes there? Konoha is currently off limits to outsiders, a voice barked from the shadows. A shuriken embedded itself in the ground ahead of them. Jiraiya. Kakashi Hatake. Senju Tsunade. The three travelers revealed their identities, but the Anbu operative didn't lower his guard. Instead, he signaled toward the woods, where countless Konoha ninjas emerged and quickly surrounded them. What is the meaning of this? Jiraiya demanded, his voice sharp. I'm sorry, Jiraiya-sama, the head of the guard department said respectfully. His tone, however, was noticeably colder when addressing Tsunade. Konoha is under strict surveillance. All outsiders, especially those who have been absent from the village for years, must be thoroughly checked. Tsunade's gaze hardened. Is this how I'm treated after agreeing to return? What a warm welcome, she said coldly, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Jiraiya, is this the village you told me about? Her piercing gaze silenced any words Jiraiya might have had prepared. Tsunade, this must be a misunderstanding, Jiraiya stammered, attempting to defuse the tension. Misunderstanding? Tsunade scoffed. A misunderstanding is questioning my identity. Her anger simmered as she took in the scene. This was not the Konoha she had left behind. The hostility, the distrust, it was a far cry from the vibrant village her grandfather had built. Tsunade turned abruptly. I'm done here. This Konoha doesn't need me, and I don't need it, she declared, her disappointment evident. But the Anbu and route operatives weren't about to let her leave. Drawing their weapons, they formed an unyielding blockade. I'm sorry, the head guard said grimly, but all outsiders are considered enemies of Konoha. You cannot leave. The hostility in their eyes was unmistakable. Tsunade's laughter was bitter and sharp. This is the Konoha my grandfather poured his heart into creating, she said, shaking her head. Her chakra flared, and the ground beneath her cracked. Anyone who dares to stop me will regret it, she said, her voice as fierce as her gaze. A single punch shattered the ground in front of the gathered ninjas, sending fissures racing toward them. The Anbu hesitated, cold sweat dripping down their faces. So this is the power of one of the legendary Sunin. As Tsunade began walking away, a voice called out from the shadows. Why leave so soon, Tsunade? Danzo stepped into view, standing on a tree branch in the distance. His gaze was cold and calculating as he observed her. Tsunade stopped, her expression unreadable as she looked at him. Her patience was wearing thin, and Danzo's mere presence tested it further. If he dared spout his usual rhetoric, she wouldn't hesitate to take action. Are these worthless fools the ones who dared to provoke you? Danzo said mockingly, gesturing toward the Anbu. If they can't even recognize Princess Tsunade, one of the legendary Sunin, they're nothing but trash. Danzo's tone was biting and condescending. Without hesitation, he raised a chakra-infused shuriken and hurled it toward one of the guards. The weapon tore through the ninja effortlessly, cutting him down like a blade through butter. Blood spilled onto the ground, the metallic scent filling the air. Tsunade froze, her breath hitching. The vivid red, the unmistakable smell, it overwhelmed her. Memories surged, and her legs trembled. Hemophobia. Tsunade tried to steady herself, but her body staggered under the weight of her fear. She clenched her fists, desperate to mask her vulnerability. Tsunade, the ignorant have been dealt with, Danzo said dismissively. Now, come back to Konoha. Hiruzen misses you dearly. His figure disappeared into the shadows, taking the bodies with him. As the Anbu retreated, Tsunade's strength finally gave out. She collapsed, unconscious. When Tsunade woke, she found herself in Konoha's hospital. The smell of antiseptics and the low murmur of wounded patients filled the air. Despite the overcrowding, she had been given a bed. Tsunade, you're awake. Jiraiya exclaimed, rushing to her side. His concern seemed genuine, though Tsunade wasn't fooled. She remembered overhearing him and Kakashi discussing the plot of Ika Ika Paradise earlier. Jiraiya, Tsunade said sharply, what did Danzo mean when he said that sensei misses me? The question caught Jiraiya off guard. His expression darkened. Hiruzen was resurrected by Uzumaki Chito, he admitted after a moment. But his soul is bound to a stone. He's not really alive, but not dead either. Tsunade's eyes widened. So Hiruzen isn't dead, she asked, her voice tight with emotion. Jiraiya nodded cautiously, but before he could say more, Tsunade's chakra flared. Her right hand clenched, glowing with raw power. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 3 comment. Vote. Chapter 3. Tsunade had thought the third Hokage was dead. The grief she felt for her former sensei had been enough to bring her back to Konoha, despite her reservations. But when she learned the truth that he was alive, albeit trapped in a bizarre half-life, her fury erupted. Jiraiya's screams echoed through Konoha Hospital, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. His swollen face bore the evidence of Tsunade's anger. "I'm going to see Hiruzen right now," Tsunade declared, storming out of the hospital. She left her bed for someone who truly needed it and headed directly for the Hokage's office. Jiraiya trailed behind her, his face a mixture of frustration and embarrassment. Tsunade sneered as she glanced back. The state of the village was unclear, but the shifts in power were obvious. Shimura Danzo had seized control, even if he hadn't officially declared himself Hokage yet. His influence loomed over every corner of Konoha. The doors to the Hokage's office opened with a loud creak, revealing Danzo seated in the Hokage's chair, reading a report from the Anbu. "Ah, Tsunade," he greeted her with a thin smile, though the cold glint in his eyes betrayed an underlying hostility. "Welcome back. Where's sensei?" Tsunade demanded, ignoring his pleasantries. She had no time for Danzo's games, her only concern was seeing Hiruzen. Danzo gestured to a pitch-black stone on the desk. "He's here, but it's not time for him to emerge yet. You'll have to wait." Tsunade's eyes narrowed as she examined the stone. If not for Jiraiya and Danzo confirming it contained Hiruzen's soul, she would never have believed it. But knowing that Uzumaki Chito was responsible made it more plausible, if no less disturbing. Moments later, the stone began to glow with an eerie black light. From its surface, a spectral form began to materialize. Hiruzen's soul emerged slowly, as though struggling to adapt to its unnatural state. His disoriented gaze eventually fell on Tsunade. "Tsunade," he said softly, his voice laced with regret, "you're finally back." "Don't get the wrong idea," Tsunade replied bluntly. "I didn't come back to take over as Hokage. You should know better than anyone that I've never wanted that title." "Konoha needs you," Hiruzen said, his tone imploring. "The villagers need you." "You're still alive," Tsunade retorted sharply. "You can continue being Hokage." Hiruzen sighed deeply, disappointment etched into his spectral form. He had anticipated resistance, but Tsunade's complete rejection stung. "Konoha cannot survive without you," he said. Tsunade's expression hardened. "The Konoha I loved no longer exists. My home disappeared the day my loved ones died." Her voice cracked slightly, but her resolve remained unshaken. She turned to leave, determined to put Konoha behind her once and for all. "Leave." Hiruzen's voice rose, a mix of disbelief and anger. "Where will you go, Tsunade? Konoha is your home." "My home." Tsunade spun around, her eyes red with suppressed grief and fury. "This place hasn't been my home in a long time, sensei. The Konoha I see now is nothing but a shadow of what it used to be." Hiruzen's expression softened momentarily before hardening again. "Think carefully, Tsunade. Becoming Hokage is your responsibility." "I don't need to think about it," Tsunade said firmly. "I'm leaving Konoha today." Hiruzen's gaze darkened, his tone cold and accusing. "Do you intend to defect as well?" "What if I do?" Tsunade snapped, her stubbornness matching his hostility. "Are you going to stop me?" Hiruzen's expression turned venomous. "Jiraiya, arrest Tsunade. She's lost her way and threatens to defect from Konoha." Jiraiya froze, caught between loyalty to his sensei and his respect for Tsunade. "Sensei, this isn't right." "This is the last time I'll call you sensei," Tsunade interrupted, her voice laced with finality. "You can't stop me." Her chakra flared, and with a burst of speed, she dashed out of the Hokage's office. But as she reached the entrance, she found herself trapped. An intricate ceiling formation activated, locking her within the building. "Tsunade, you can't escape," Hiruzen's spectral form said, floating before her with a sinister glare. Tsunade sneered. "Oh, really? Let's see about that." She pulled out the seal paper Naruto had given her and channeled her chakra into it. The paper glowed with an intense white light, enveloping the entire Hokage building and spilling out into the village. From the light, a figure descended gracefully, his white robe fluttering in the air. Uzumaki Chito stood beside Tsunade, his presence radiating power. His gaze swept the room, taking in the seals and the assembled ninjas. With a wave of his hand, the seals shattered like glass, the oppressive barrier dissolving instantly. Uzumaki Chito turned his piercing gaze to the gathered Konoha ninja, his voice dripping with disdain. "Do you think you are worthy of keeping me here? Or of capturing her?" He sneered, his chakra flaring with a force that sent a chill down everyone's spine. The Konoha ninjas hesitated, the confidence they'd shown moments earlier evaporating under his overwhelming presence. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. To comment. Vote. Chapter 4. Under the overwhelming presence of Uzumaki Chito, no one dared to step forward. His chakra radiated like an immovable force, suffocating even the most seasoned warriors. Despite having faced him numerous times, Hiruzen felt the cold hand of death looming over him whenever Uzumaki Chito was near. This man acknowledged as the strongest in the ninja world stood like an immortal, unshaken, and untouchable. Tsunade's eyes brimmed with emotion as she looked at Uzumaki Chito. With him standing protectively by her side, no one dared to approach. She felt a sense of safety that she hadn't known in years. Uzumaki Chito's sneer cut through the tense silence. Where my family's little Tsunade chooses to stay is not for you to decide, he said, his voice sharp and unyielding. Not a single soul dared to respond. They could only stand helplessly as Uzumaki Chito turned and began to leave with Tsunade. Before departing, his icy gaze swept over the room, landing on Hiruzen. I despise disruptions, he said, his voice dripping with disdain. With a wave of his hand, a surge of chakra slammed into Hiruzen's soul. The soul, which had been hazy and weakened, thickened and became more solid. However, the powerful chakra flush left traces of a sinister aura lingering around it. Hiruzen's once clouded eyes sharpened as clarity returned. Where am I? Hiruzen muttered, his voice trembling. His gaze landed on Jiraiya, who stared back in stunned silence. Jiraiya, is Tsunade back? Jiraiya hesitated, his wide eyes betraying his shock. Teacher, what's wrong with you? He finally asked, realizing that something had shifted. Hiruzen furrowed his brow. Something feels missing in my head, he admitted. Memories began flooding back, piecing together the events of the last few days. The more he remembered, the deeper his expression darkened. Danzo. He growled, his voice laced with anger. But when he scanned the room, Shimura Danzo was nowhere to be found. The surrounding silence was damning. Hiruzen's gaze shifted to Tsunade, who stood beside Uzumaki Chito. His face softened, and guilt flickered in his eyes. Tsunade, he said, his voice trembling, I was under genjutsu. Everything I said and did wasn't of my own will. But I'm sorry. Will you still consider staying? The sincerity in his tone was undeniable. Hiruzen looked frail, as though the weight of his mistakes had aged him further. Tsunade's lips pressed into a thin line. I can forgive you, she said quietly, but I won't take the Hokage position. Deep down, she understood that Hiruzen had been manipulated, and her anger toward him had softened. However, that forgiveness didn't extend to Konoha itself. You don't have to be Hokage, Hiruzen pleaded, his voice weary. Just stay in the village. Spend some time with me, this old man. Tsunade hesitated, torn between her lingering sense of duty and her frustration with the village. Her hands tugged at Uzumaki Chito's robes, silently seeking guidance. It's okay, Uzumaki Chito said softly, his voice filled with warmth as he patted her head. Leave this to me. He had allowed Tsunade to return to Konoha to find closure, and now that purpose had been fulfilled. There was no reason to let these scheming fools become a burden to her. When Uzumaki Chito turned his gaze back to Hiruzen, it was icy and sharp. His presence grew colder, and the room seemed to darken. Hiruzen, he said, his tone cutting like a blade, sitting on the Hokage's seat for too long has changed you. And when people change, their path as a shinobi changes too. Hiruzen's face turned pale as the weight of Uzumaki Chito's words sank in. You fell under genjutsu, but even in that state, you spoke the truths buried deep in your heart. Can you deny that? Uzumaki Chito's piercing gaze left Hiruzen unable to respond. I don't know how the second Hokage ever considered you his successor, but I certainly wouldn't. The sharp rebuke cut through Hiruzen's soul like a blade. As someone who had always taken pride in being Tobirama's student, the dismissal of his worth hit harder than any physical attack. Uzumaki Chito's gaze shifted slightly, locking onto a hidden chamber beneath Konoha. Danzo, he said, his voice dripping with menace, I know you are listening. Whatever schemes you're planning, I suggest you abandon them. Otherwise, your fate will mirror Hiruzen's if not worse. Though Danzo was out of sight, the weight of Uzumaki Chito's words reached him. Hidden deep within a concealed bunker, Danzo felt a chill run down his spine. It was a blatant threat, one he couldn't afford to ignore. With the seals shattered and his point made, Uzumaki Chito turned to Tsunade. Let's leave. You've done what you came to do. Tsunade nodded, a mixture of relief and gratitude washing over her. Together, they left Konoha, leaving behind a village steeped in confusion, fear, and guilt. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. For comment. Vote. Chapter 5. The aftermath of Uzumaki Chito's appearance left Konoha in disarray. Though no physical harm had been done, the psychological impact was profound. The lingering pressure of his chakra had left even the strongest shinobi shaken, their confidence fractured. Hiruzen stood among his people, watching their lost and disheartened faces. A deep sigh escaped him. He felt the weight of his failures more acutely than ever. Jiraiya, standing nearby, stared blankly in the direction where Uzumaki Chito and Tsunade had disappeared. His mind was clouded, and for once, he had no answers. Jiraiya, are you all right? Hiruzen asked, his tone tinged with concern. With Konoha in its current state, Jiraiya was one of the few people he could still rely on. Jiraiya remained silent, his expression unreadable. He didn't even glance at Hiruzen. Back in the Hokage's office, Hiruzen scanned the room, his gaze falling on a report annotated by Danzo. He clenched his fists. Despite everything, Danzo had been working tirelessly to position himself as Hokage. The ambition was blatant in his actions. Danzo, Hiruzen called out, his voice firm, come out. I know you're here. From the shadows, Shimura Danzo stepped forward. His cold eyes met Hiruzen's, but his expression betrayed uncertainty. He wasn't sure what to expect from Hiruzen now. Danzo, Hiruzen said, his tone resigned, I've made a decision. You will become the next Hokage. Danzo's eyes widened in surprise, and he instinctively stepped back. The words he had longed to hear no longer filled him with excitement but dread. Hiruzen, Danzo said cautiously, I no longer want the position of Hokage. His voice carried an uncharacteristic sincerity. Hiruzen's brows furrowed. You've always wanted this, Danzo. For years, you've schemed and pushed for the seat. And now, when I offer it to you, you suddenly have no interest. Danzo shook his head. I've seen the cost of power, Hiruzen. The Hokage's seat is a dangerous position, one I'm not willing to take anymore. Hiruzen's voice softened, though frustration lingered. Danzo, your abilities are strong, your strategy's effective. You've always been driven. That makes you the best candidate for Hokage. Danzo's expression hardened. We both know your words are meant to manipulate me. I won't take the position, Hiruzen. I refuse. With that, he disappeared into the shadows. Danzo. Hiruzen shouted, but the room remained silent. Danzo had no intention of returning. Hiruzen turned to Jiraiya, his voice almost pleading. Jiraiya. But Jiraiya only sighed, avoiding his gaze. Meanwhile, Uzumaki Chito's speed carried him and Tsunade back to the land of whirlpools in half a day. The once ruined land was now bustling with activity. Houses were being built, and the foundation of a new village was taking shape. Naruto and the others were relieved to see Tsunade return safely. Their concerns about Konoha were validated, but the sight of Tsunade with Uzumaki Chito reassured them that she had made the right choice. Uzumaki Chito carried Tsunade, who was sleeping peacefully, to his room. His clone placed her gently on the bed, while the real Uzumaki Chito remained outside, training and feeling the chakra in the air. He was exploring the deeper mysteries of chakra, always seeking to expand his understanding. The clone, its task complete, merged back into the main body, transferring all its memories and experiences. Tsunade stirred as her breathing hitched slightly, betraying her wakefulness. Stop pretending to be asleep, Uzumaki Chito said, his tone amused. I can feel your chakras shift. Tsunade pouted and stretched lazily, her voice playful. I rarely get to sleep this comfortably. Let me rest a little longer. Out there, I'm always running from gambling debts and bounty hunters. With a playful smirk, her appearance shifted to that of a 10-year-old child, as she clung to Uzumaki Chito's arm coquettishly. You've grown, but you still act like a child, Uzumaki Chito said with a sigh. I shouldn't have taught you to gamble. Tsunade grinned mischievously. Well, if you'd taught me better techniques, I wouldn't lose all the time. Maybe you should teach me something new so I can finally win. You've managed to turn even my lessons into a curse, Uzumaki Chito muttered, shaking his head. You're still the big fat sheep of the gambling world. Tsunade laughed, unbothered by the nickname. Hugging his arm tightly, she said, I really missed you, Chito-sama. It's good to be home. Uzumaki Chito looked down at her with a faint smile. It's good to have you back, little Tsunade. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 1 comment. Vote. Chapter 6. Uzumaki Chito watched as Tsunade clung to his arm, her playful, coquettish demeanor leaving him feeling helpless. Despite her teasing, Tsunade knew she couldn't afford to stay idle for long. The establishment of a new Konoha required tremendous effort recruiting villagers, training new ninjas, and building infrastructure. We lack everything, Tsunade admitted, her tone serious. We need people, ninjas, a complete teaching system, and ninjutsu knowledge. Right now, if you include me, we only have 2 people with medical expertise. Uzumaki Chito nodded. Indeed. When we first built Konoha, there were already many clans eager to join. Population wasn't an issue then, but now we're starting from scratch. Tsunade's expression brightened slightly. Population might not be as big of a problem as you think. There are displaced people everywhere because of the constant fighting between ninja villages. Many smaller villages have been destroyed, leaving their inhabitants homeless. She explained further. All we need to do is bring those people back to the new Konoha. They'll be grateful for a chance to rebuild their lives. Uzumaki Chito smiled at her solution. Naruto can handle this. He has the enthusiasm for it, he said before calling Naruto and the others over. When Uzumaki Chito addressed the group, he started simply. What are we missing right now? Naruto immediately raised his hand, his excitement bubbling over. I know. I know. We're missing Ichiraku ramen. His mouth watered at the thought, nearly drooling. Uzumaki Chito's expression darkened slightly. Guy chuckled, patting Naruto's head. We're missing people, Naruto. To build a new Konoha, we need a population, right? Exactly, Uzumaki Chito said, nodding. To counter this, Shin Konoha will welcome anyone who's lost their home. Ninjas from smaller villages, civilians, anyone who wants a fresh start. Turning to Naruto and Guy, Uzumaki Chito outlined their tasks. Naruto, you'll lead this recruitment effort. Guy, you and Lee will take another area and do the same. Bring back as many people as you can. Naruto's face lit up at the responsibility. I won't let you down, Grandpa. Tsunade smirked. What about me? You're not giving me a mission. You'll have a role, too, Uzumaki Chito assured her. But you don't need to haggle for it. Tsunade's eyes sparkled mischievously. Fine, but I want 5 seal papers. 5? Why do you need so many? Uzumaki Chito raised an eyebrow. This mission isn't dangerous. 2 at most. Tsunade pouted. To call you when I'm bored. 3, and I won't argue. Uzumaki Chito sighed, relenting. Fine. 3. But that's the limit. He handed her the papers, shaking his head at her antics. He then turned to Naruto and Guy, giving each a seal paper of their own. Use these only in emergencies. The goal isn't just to succeed but to grow stronger. Tsunade mentioned the Land of Rain as the region with the highest number of displaced people. That country has been at war for years. Refugees flood in from every direction. It's the perfect place to recruit. Uzumaki Chito's eyes gleamed slightly. The Land of Rain, huh? Interesting. The Akatsuki operates from there. It's a good opportunity to see them. The Land of Rain lived up to its name. The constant downpour painted the entire landscape in shades of grey. Rivers of water streamed through the muddy streets, and the town seemed shrouded in mist. Naruto grumbled, his hood dripping with rain. How does anyone live in a place like this? Beside him, Uzumaki Chito walked unfazed. The rain evaporated before it could touch him, surrounding him with a light mist. To Naruto, it looked as though his grandfather had stepped out of a myth. As they walked, Naruto suddenly stopped, his senses alert. There's someone ahead, he whispered, forming a raised nan in his hand. With precision, he hurled it into a puddle on the road. A hidden rain ninja in a breathing mask yelped as he was launched into the air before crashing to the ground. He quickly recovered, using water jutsu to flee. Naruto moved to pursue, but Uzumaki Chito stopped him with a wave of his hand. Let him go, Uzumaki Chito said lightly. He'll report back to his leaders. That saves us the trouble of announcing ourselves. Naruto frowned but relented. Fine, but this weather is the worst. Uzumaki Chito looked around and sighed. You're right. This gloomy atmosphere isn't very welcoming. With a casual flick of his sleeve, he swiped the sky as though erasing a smudge. The dark clouds parted instantly, and sunlight streamed down, illuminating the land. Naruto's jaw dropped. That's incredible. It's like magic. Not magic, Uzumaki Chito corrected. Just an application of power. In the distance, atop the tallest building in Omegakure, Nagato and Konan stared at the sudden sunlight breaking through the perpetual rain. This isn't natural, Konan murmured, her paper wings twitching with unease. It feels divine. Nagato's Rinnegan narrowed as a sense of foreboding settled over him. Whoever it is, they're not ordinary. We need to be prepared. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. For comment. Vote. Chapter 7. Uchiha Obito had sensed Uzumaki Chito's arrival long before the others. As he observed the sudden clearing of the Land of Rain's perpetual storms, he felt a mixture of awe and dread. Uzumaki Chito's strength was undeniable, a force so absolute that even the resurrection of Kagaya would pale in comparison. Inside the Akatsuki base, Naruto had already donned the Akatsuki cloak, a black robe adorned with red clouds. He carried himself confidently, the K-ring fastened to his belt, as he stepped into the organization's stronghold. Trailing behind, Uzumaki Chito remained as composed as ever, his white robe fluttering lightly with each step. His demeanor exuded an air of invincibility, oblivious to the hostility radiating from the other members of the Akatsuki. At the entrance, Deidara and Sasori moved to block Uzumaki Chito's path. Their intentions were clear. No outsiders were allowed. Grandpa. Naruto called out nervously, sensing the tension. Deidara's laughter echoed through the corridor. Grandpa? Ha. What kind of ninja brings their family to a place like this? Sasori, ever silent, readied his puppets, their lifeless forms falling into position before him. Outsiders aren't welcome here, he said coldly. Naruto hesitated, looking back at Uzumaki Chito. It's fine, Chito said with a calm smile. Go on ahead, Naruto. I'll handle this. Reluctantly, Naruto nodded and entered the base, casting one last glance at his grandfather. He couldn't help but think it was overkill for someone of Uzumaki Chito's caliber to deal with these two. Deidara smirked. Don't worry, kid. I'll make sure your grandpa doesn't get hurt. He turned to Uzumaki Chito, his tone mocking. All right, old man, step aside. It's dangerous in here. Uzumaki Chito's expression remained unchanged, his eyes glinting with amusement. Deidara's patience snapped. Fine, don't say I didn't warn you, he shouted, detonating a clay bomb at Chito's feet. The explosion was deafening, the ground shaking under its force. Smoke and debris filled the air, drawing the attention of everyone within the base. What's going on? Uchiha Obito demanded as he rushed toward the entrance, recognizing Naruto's presence. His thoughts immediately jumped to Uzumaki Chito. Those fools. They have no idea what they've done. Nagato and Konan, seeing Obito's urgency, followed close behind. They believed him to be Uchiha Madara, and his reaction alarmed them. As the dust settled, Uzumaki Chito stood unharmed, his robes pristine. He brushed his sleeves lightly, dispersing the lingering smoke. It seems your so-called art lacks substance, he remarked, his tone laced with disdain. Deidara's eyes widened in shock. Impossible. How dare you insult my art? Enraged, he prepared another attack. Sasori, recognizing that something was amiss, brought forth his prized third Kazekage puppet. You won't get past me, he said, his voice devoid of emotion. Uzumaki Chito's gaze lingered on the puppet, a faint smile playing on his lips. The third Kazekage, he mused. He was a good child. Sasori froze. His impassive demeanor faltered. How do you know that? He asked, his voice sharp with suspicion. Even the Akatsuki didn't know the full story of the third Kazekage's death. Ignoring Sasori's question, Uzumaki Chito shook slightly, and all of Deidara's clay ants, which had been creeping toward him, fell lifeless to the ground. They disintegrated into dust, rendering them useless. Your tricks are meaningless against true strength, Chito said dismissively. Before either Deidara or Sasori could act further, Uchiha Obito appeared, his voice urgent. Stop. Both of you, stand down. Deidara turned, confused by Obito's reaction. Why? He's just some. Obito cut him off, his tone almost trembling. You don't understand who you're dealing with. Turning to Uzumaki Chito, Obito bowed slightly, his voice reverent. Lord Chito. What brings you here? Deidara and Sasori exchanged bewildered glances, unsure of what they had just stumbled into. I'm not here for you, Obito, Uzumaki Chito said calmly. I've come for Nagato. At that moment, Konan pushed Nagato forward in his wheelchair. His crimson hair glistened under the newfound sunlight, and his Rinnegan eyes studied Uzumaki Chito cautiously. I'm not called Nagato anymore, he said, his voice steady. I'm Pain. Uzumaki Chito regarded him with satisfaction. Sure enough, the blood of the Uzumaki clan runs strong in you, he said, nodding. That red hair of yours is a mark of your heritage. Nagato's expression tightened. I don't understand what you are talking about. Naruto, who had been listening from nearby, was wide-eyed. Wait, he's from the Uzumaki clan? That means... He trailed off, his mind racing. No wonder Grandpa asked me to join Akatsuki. There's a connection here. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. Zero comment. Vote. Chapter 8. I said, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm an orphan with no relatives, Nagato replied sharply, his voice laced with defiance. To him, the idea of family had long been buried with his loved ones. Now, his sole focus was using his power to create a peaceful and stable world. The sudden appearance of Uzumaki Chito, claiming kinship, only stirred an unease Nagato didn't want to confront. Uzumaki Chito regarded Nagato with patience, though his eyes reflected deep understanding. Kid, no matter what you say, it doesn't change the truth. You're from the land of Whirlpool, he said, his tone gentle yet firm. Nagato's jaw tightened. The mention of the Uzumaki clan struck a chord he didn't want to acknowledge. Memories of his mother, her red hair so much like his own, flashed briefly in his mind, but he buried them beneath his resolve. No, he snapped. I'm not from your Uzumaki clan. I'm Nagato. I'm Pain. Konan, standing beside Nagato, could see the faint flicker of doubt in his eyes. She understood his resistance, but she also knew how deeply Nagato longed for a connection. Still, she stood by his side, unwavering in her support. Uzumaki Chito sighed, shaking his head as though disappointed. If a child refuses to listen, sometimes you need to educate them, he said, a playful hint in his voice. Naruto is a strange one, always eager to listen. You, on the other hand, are a bit rebellious. Uchiha Obito, observing from nearby, smirked faintly. Do you want me to help? He offered, though he already knew the answer. This man is very strong, Konan warned. Nagato interjected, his tone resolute. No. I'll handle this myself. Uzumaki Chito's smile widened. What a kind child. Even in defiance, you're protective of your kin. Let's see how well you've learned to wield the Rinnegan. Nagato's face hardened. If I win, you'll leave the land of rain forever, he declared, summoning his 6 paths of pain. The 6 figures moved into position, surrounding Uzumaki Chito. Shura path lunged first, its mechanical enhancements activating. 3 heads and 6 arms extended from its body, firing homing missiles at Uzumaki Chito. Uzumaki Chito raised an eyebrow, almost amused. Interesting, he said as he casually deflected the missiles, each one falling to the ground harmlessly. But these toys won't be enough. The human path used the Shura path's distraction to close in. Its hand reached for Uzumaki Chito's arm, attempting to seize him. You've lost, Nagato said coldly, his confidence rising. Once the human path had physical contact, its ability to extract a soul should render any opponent powerless. But Uzumaki Chito only smiled. Are you sure? With a flick of his wrist, he broke free of the human path's grip, hurling it to the ground with a force that cracked the earth beneath it. Nagato's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. The human path's abilities should have rendered you defenseless. Uzumaki Chito dusted off his robe as though nothing had happened. The Rinnegan is impressive, but it's just a tool. True power lies beyond it. If the 6-path sage himself were here, I might take this seriously. He raised his hand, and an invisible pressure radiated outward. The 6 figures of pain collapsed to the ground, their movements frozen as though they had been turned to stone. What have you done? Nagato demanded, his voice tinged with panic. I can't control them anymore. Relax, Uzumaki Chito said calmly. They're just taking a nap. Now, do you accept that you're from the Uzumaki clan? Nagato's lips pressed into a thin line, his silence betraying his inner turmoil. Uzumaki Chito stroked his chin thoughtfully, his expression lightening as if struck by an idea. You know, this is quite simple. You and Minato were both Jiraiya's apprentices. Naruto, Minato's son, calls me grandpa. So, by extension. He smiled warmly. You can call me grandpa too. Nagato's face twisted in a mix of frustration and disbelief. Konan stifled a small laugh, though she quickly composed herself. Even Obito couldn't suppress a chuckle at the unexpected turn of events. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. To comment. Vote. Chapter 9. Under Uzumaki Chito's expectant gaze, Nagato was finally forced to shout, Grandpa. Uzumaki Chito smiled kindly. To others, however, seeing someone with such a youthful appearance displaying that kind of smile felt oddly unsettling. It was an image that clashed with expectations, yet none dared to comment on it. The oppressive aura that had subdued the 6 paths of pain dissipated, allowing Nagato to regain control of his powerful technique. Still, he couldn't meet Uzumaki Chito's gaze directly, his eyes darting away in avoidance. If Nagato hadn't already discerned Uzumaki Chito's identity from his earlier words, he would have been unworthy of being the leader of the Akatsuki. The legendary figure standing before him wasn't just anyone. He was Uzumaki Chito, a figure of Konoha's distant past and the teacher of the first Hokage himself. The same Uzumaki Chito who had left Konoha village, taking Naruto Uzumaki, the son of the 4th Hokage, under his wing. Nagato had never imagined he carried the blood of the Uzumaki clan. Nagato has finally found his people, Konan said warmly, genuinely happy for her comrade. Since Yahiko's death, Nagato had changed, becoming an entirely different person. His actions had grown extreme, almost to the point of no return. Seeing this reunion seemed to bring a glimmer of hope. Alright, I just came to see the bloodline of the Uzumaki clan. Now that I've seen it, allow me to introduce you to someone. Naruto, your nephew, Uzumaki Chito said, pulling Naruto forward. In truth, Uzumaki Chito didn't know Nagato's exact seniority. However, since both he and Minato had trained under Jiraiya, this familial connection seemed close enough. Hello, uncle. Naruto said cheerfully, clearly thrilled to discover another relative. Hello. Nephew, Nagato replied awkwardly, unsure of how to respond. The Uzumaki clan had so few members left in the world that such a meeting felt surreal. When the land of whirlpools was destroyed, Uzumaki Chito had tirelessly searched for surviving clan members scattered across the lands. Yet his efforts had yielded little success. Only through his understanding of the world's events, gleaned from the original plotline, had he been able to trace Nagato's bloodline to the Uzumaki clan. Others, like Uzumaki Karin, were also among the scattered descendants. However, for now, she remained safely hidden away in Orochimaru's laboratory. The moment of familial reunion was heartwarming, but the peace didn't last. You're Uzumaki Chito, the first Hokage's teacher. A greeting, arrogant voice interrupted the scene. Hidan stood there, brandishing his large scythe, his tone dripping with disdain. He clearly didn't regard Uzumaki Chito with any seriousness. If I use your body as a sacrifice to Jashin, the god will be overjoyed. Ha ha ha. Hidan burst into laughter, his gaze fixed on Uzumaki Chito like a predator eyeing prey. Nagato's voice turned cold. Hidan, stand down. Hidan, unfazed, roared in defiance. Shut up. Are you hesitating now that you've met your own people? Aren't we supposed to make humanity fear pain and war? Isn't that your purpose as leader? Or are you abandoning that now? Nagato ignored Hidan's outburst and turned his attention to Kakuzu. Kakuzu, do you feel the same way? He asked, his voice sharp. Kakuzu remained silent, standing beside Hidan in quiet solidarity. His actions spoke louder than words. Finally, Kakuzu addressed Uzumaki Chito with uncharacteristic respect. Lord Uzumaki Chito, it's an honor to meet you. Uzumaki Chito's gaze lingered on Kakuzu, his expression filled with nostalgia. I know you. Hashirama once told me about you, the one who tried to assassinate him and lived. A flicker of recognition passed between the two. Both Uzumaki Chito and Kakuzu were relics of a bygone era, their lives stretched across centuries of history. So, are you my enemy as well? Uzumaki Chito's tone grew cold, his eyes narrowing. Kakuzu's response was blunt. I just want to fight. Kakuzu had already surmised that the earlier miracle of weather manipulation had been Uzumaki Chito's doing. As someone who had lived an unnaturally long life, Kakuzu found little to excite him anymore. Yet the prospect of battling a legend like Uzumaki Chito ignited a rare spark of interest. Even if it means your death? Uzumaki Chito asked, a faint trace of admiration in his voice. He respected Kakuzu's relentless pursuit of strength, even in the face of danger. Kakuzu hesitated for a moment before replying solemnly. Yes, even if it means death. Before anyone could react, Hidan chimed in with his usual brashness. Then we can kill you too, right, Kakuzu? Ignoring Hidan's comment, Kakuzu focused solely on Uzumaki Chito. Prepare yourself, he said gravely. Without another word, Kakuzu and Hidan launched a coordinated attack. Black tentacles erupted from Kakuzu's body, lashing out toward Uzumaki Chito like serpents. Hidan's massive scythe spun through the air, the blade glinting with a sinister curse. The sheer ferocity of their combined assault was enough to make most observers tremble. But not Uzumaki Chito. Among the onlookers, only Uchiha Obito and Naruto remained unshaken. Two idiots courting death, Obito muttered, unimpressed. To him, their attack was no more than a minor annoyance to someone of Uzumaki Chito's caliber. Naruto, meanwhile, was brimming with confidence. To him, there was no one in the world who could harm his grandfather. Grandpa is invincible. Grandpa, be careful. Hidan's curse activates if he gets your blood. Nagato warned, his voice laced with urgency. Uzumaki Chito stood motionless, utterly unbothered by the impending attack. He made no move to dodge or defend himself. A cruel smile spread across the faces of Hidan and Kakuzu as their attacks connected, or so they thought. Clang. The sound of metal clashing reverberated through the air. Both attackers were forced to retreat several steps, their expressions twisting in disbelief. Hidan's scythe was shattered, its head completely missing. The black tentacles Kakuzu had summoned lay severed, writhing uselessly on the ground. Standing unscathed amidst the wreckage of their assault, Uzumaki Chito smiled faintly. His voice was calm, yet carried an unmistakable air of dominance. Is that all? Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 3 comment. Vote. Chapter 10. Uzumaki Chito stood unscathed, a sneer playing on his lips as he regarded Hidan and Kakuzu with disdain. The two were incensed. To them, Uzumaki Chito's indifference was a blatant insult. Kakuzu, cooperate with me. Hidan shouted angrily, his pride refusing to accept the possibility that they couldn't even scratch Uzumaki Chito's defenses. Kakuzu shook his head, a sigh of resignation escaping his lips. This was, without a doubt, the strongest opponent they had ever encountered. Every attack they had launched so far had been utterly ineffective. Still, Hidan held on to one hope: if he could just obtain a single drop of Uzumaki Chito's blood, his curse might turn the tide. Kakuzu lunged forward, aiming to restrain Uzumaki Chito, while Hidan swung his massive scythe with all his might toward Chito's raised arm. Clang. The deafening sound of metal striking an impenetrable surface echoed through the air. Despite their combined efforts, neither Kakuzu's nor Hidan's attacks could pierce Uzumaki Chito's defenses. Panting heavily, the two stood back, their confidence shaken. A hint of fear crept into their eyes as they stared at the unmoving figure before them. Even Hidan, devout in his faith in Jashin, found himself unnerved by the sheer invulnerability of Uzumaki Chito. What the hell? Are you? Hidan demanded, his breath ragged. His voice was filled with disbelief. This wasn't human. No creature, not even the legendary tailed beasts, could withstand such attacks without suffering even the slightest injury. Yet Uzumaki Chito remained untouched. God, Uzumaki Chito replied simply, the corners of his mouth curling into a faint smile. God? Ha! Hidan spat, his eyes narrowing. Arrogant fool. The only true god is Jashin. Even in the face of overwhelming power, Hidan refused to acknowledge Uzumaki Chito's claim. His faith in Jashin remained unshaken. Lord Uzumaki Chito, we were too presumptuous, Kakuzu interjected, beginning to pull back from the fight. It was clear to him that continuing would only lead to their deaths. But before they could retreat, Uzumaki Chito's next action made them freeze in place. With an almost casual motion, Uzumaki Chito extended his hand and made a small incision on his own arm. Blood trickled out, coalescing into a crimson orb that floated in his palm. Do you want to try? Curse me with my own blood. Uzumaki Chito's tone was calm yet laced with a chilling edge. The way he offered his blood was almost taunting, an invitation that was impossible to refuse. Hidan hesitated. Even he, often deemed a madman, felt a flicker of unease. Uzumaki Chito's composure and audacity were unnerving. You're insane, Hidan muttered, though the words sounded more like an admission than an insult. Despite the unease, Hidan's pride as a devout follower of Jashin wouldn't allow him to back down. He lunged forward and snatched the blood orb from Uzumaki Chito's hand. As Hidan held the blood, he immediately sensed that this wasn't ordinary. It was heavier than expected and teeming with an immense amount of chakra. This single drop of blood carried more energy than even the combined reserves of the legendary Sunin. With a wicked grin, Hidan began carving his curse formation into the ground, using Uzumaki Chito's blood to complete the ritual. The crimson liquid flowed into his own body, and he licked a portion of it from his hand, his expression turning cruel. Prepare to die, Hidan sneered. Without hesitation, he began stabbing himself with his weapon, the curse activating as intended. Die. Die. You'll feel the same pain I do. Hidan cackled, his laughter echoing maniacally as he drove his weapon into his own body over and over. To Hidan, this was a trivial sacrifice. His immortality ensured that no wound would ever kill him, and his curse guaranteed that Uzumaki Chito would share his suffering. Yet, nothing happened. Uzumaki Chito stood motionless, entirely unaffected. He didn't even flinch. The sight left the others, including those who knew the nature of Hidan's curse, completely bewildered. Hidan's laughter faltered. Weak and confused, he looked up at Uzumaki Chito, whose calm, indifferent gaze was now tinged with something resembling disdain. How are you, okay? Impossible. This is impossible. Hidan stammered, his voice breaking with disbelief. All curses are powerless in the face of absolute strength, Uzumaki Chito replied matter-of-factly. Your curse may work on ordinary people, but against me? It's meaningless. The blood of Uzumaki Chito wasn't ordinary. It was divine, far beyond what Hidan's cursed ritual could handle. Only a true god could curse Uzumaki Chito. And Hidan? Hidan was no god. He was merely a devout believer. Uzumaki Chito's voice dropped, carrying a note of finality. I'll give you one more chance. Summon the Jashin you worship. If you can't, you'll die here. Before Hidan could respond, Uzumaki Chito's figure flickered, and in an instant, he was standing directly in front of him. The overwhelming pressure of Chito's presence forced Hidan to his knees, his body trembling uncontrollably. While Hidan had been performing his curse, Uzumaki Chito had sensed something, a faint presence watching from the shadows. It had felt like an otherworldly gaze, almost as if Jashin himself had taken notice. Interesting, Uzumaki Chito murmured, a faint smile playing on his lips. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 5 comment. Vote. Chapter 11. Uzumaki Chito lifted the oppressive aura, having already completed the analysis of Hidan's curse during the earlier confrontation. The existence of the so-called Jashin proved to be an intriguing puzzle, one that piqued Chito's curiosity rather than fear. Hidan, now immobilized on the ground, resembled a defeated child who couldn't comprehend the failure of his supposed infallible curse. His disbelief was palpable, his faith shaken but not yet shattered. Consumed by a mix of rage and desperation, Hidan clung fiercely to his beliefs. The Jashin will not release you, he spat, his eyes blazing with a mix of defiance and fear. Uzumaki Chito's response was understated, almost dismissive, yet it left everyone momentarily stunned. With a calm, measured tone, Chito said, "Death? From your god? Let's see." Hidan's hatred burned brightly in his gaze, but beneath it lurked a shadow of apprehension. Despite his trembling faith, he pushed himself upright, preparing to perform his ritual once more. His movements were hurried, yet filled with an air of finality, as though he sought to prove his god's power at any cost. Chito took a few steps back, his calm demeanor unwavering. "Go ahead. Begin your spectacle. But be warned, if it fails to meet my expectations, you know what will happen," Chito stated, his words laced with quiet authority. Unbeknownst to Hidan, his faith was already crumbling under the relentless pressure of Uzumaki Chito's presence. Like a porcelain doll hastily glued together, his conviction teetered on the edge of collapse. With Uzumaki Chito's blood, Hidan drew a pattern of intersecting circles and triangles on the ground. As the formation took shape, his demeanor shifted to one of solemn reverence, the kind befitting a devout follower presenting a living sacrifice. Though Chito remained alive, Hidan fervently believed his ritual would summon Jashin to pass judgment upon the mortal who had defied divine will. From the depths of the void, an ominous presence began to materialize. Shadowy entities emerged through a tear in space, their arrival accompanied by an oppressive, sinister aura. Hidan's eyes gleamed with fanaticism as he raised his arms in supplication. "Lord Jashin, I beseech you. Pass judgment upon this human," he cried, his voice trembling with a mix of devotion and anticipation. However, to Hidan's utter disappointment, Uzumaki Chito merely shook his head, an incredulous smile playing on his lips. What stood before him was no god, but rather a crude vessel, a being that thrived on malevolent emotions, a parasite feeding on fear and hatred. It was a mockery of divinity, no greater than a shadow of true power. As the entity loomed, Uzumaki Chito's chakra flared. The sheer magnitude of it dwarfed the so-called Jashin, rendering it insignificant. The being, once revered as a deity, now quaked under the oppressive force of Chito's presence. Sensing its imminent defeat, the Jashin attempted to flee, retreating back into the void. But Uzumaki Chito's hand shot out, sealing its escape with effortless precision. His voice was calm yet unyielding. "You sought to judge me? Then face judgment yourself." Ignoring the astonishment of the onlookers, Uzumaki Chito subdued the Jashin as easily as one might grasp a fragile chick. The once mighty entity writhed helplessly in Chito's grasp, its essence trembling under the overwhelming force of his power. Though the Jashin possessed the ability to resurrect itself, Chito's influence ensured that its very nature would be irrevocably altered. The being's cries for mercy grew weaker, fading into a faint whisper before disappearing entirely. In its place, only black mist remained, dissipating into nothingness. Hidan, who had dedicated his life to the worship of this supposed god, stared in horror. His faith, once unshakable, had been utterly destroyed. Uzumaki Chito had not only defeated the Jashin, he had obliterated it without hesitation or remorse. Hidan's immortal existence, granted by the Jashin, now teetered on the brink. His spirit crumbled alongside his fading soul, leaving him a shadow of the fanatic he once was. As Hidan's body weakened, Uzumaki Chito observed him thoughtfully. Then, in an act of unexpected mercy, Chito stabilized Hidan's soul, preventing it from being completely consumed. Yet, no sooner had Chito done so than a demonic figure emerged from the shadows, a grim reaper intent on claiming Hidan's soul as penance for his devotion to the fallen Jashin. With a single stern command, Uzumaki Chito dismissed the reaper, banishing it as though swatting away an insect. The act was a profound statement. Uzumaki Chito's power extended even over death itself. The bystanders, frozen in awe, watched as their worldview unraveled. For so long, they had believed their struggles for peace in the ninja world were the pinnacle of ambition. Yet Uzumaki Chito had transcended such mortal concerns. His gaze was set far beyond the petty squabbles of humanity. His sights were fixed on the gods themselves. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. To comment. Vote. Chapter 12. Nagato opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. His throat was dry, and his thoughts jumbled. Could this person truly be an ancestor of the Uzumaki clan? If only they had appeared sooner. How can we possibly stand against someone like that? I must be losing my mind, Deidara muttered, his legs trembling as the enormity of Uzumaki Chito's power sank in. Sasori gave a subtle nod of agreement, relieved that this overwhelming being hadn't turned its gaze on him or the others. Meanwhile, Hidan, wide-eyed and hoarse, rasped out, why did you save me? If I've slain your Jashin, will you pledge your faith to me instead? Uzumaki Chito proposed, an intriguing notion forming in his mind. Hidan's eyes widened, a flicker of zeal reigniting in their depths. Though his faith lay in ruins, Uzumaki Chito's words planted a seed of belief in the wreckage of his convictions. Lord Uzumaki Chito, Hidan declared, his voice trembling with fervor, from this moment onward, you are my deity. In times of desperation, people cling to even the faintest hope. Uzumaki Chito smiled faintly and waved a hand, dispersing the lingering dust to reveal Hidan, now fully restored. As Hidan opened his eyes, he felt an unfamiliar surge of strength coursing through his body. His immortality, once a gift from Jashin, remained intact, but it had evolved. He was stronger, more complete than before. Uzumaki Chito, satisfied with his work, had harnessed the remnants of Jashin's power to fortify Hidan's immortal body. There was potential for Hidan to ascend and become the next Jashin in his own right. Reverent and empowered, Hidan moved to stand behind Uzumaki Chito, his posture one of complete devotion. Seeing this transformation, Kakuzu, who had always prided himself on his composure, dropped to one knee. I vow to serve Lord Uzumaki Chito faithfully, Kakuzu proclaimed, sweat trickling down his brow as he dared not meet Uzumaki Chito's gaze. Enough of this, Uzumaki Chito said with a dismissive wave. Return to your duties. I'll accompany Nagato for now to oversee his tasks. The rest of you keep busy and leave me be. The onlookers scattered quickly, eager to escape Uzumaki Chito's overwhelming presence. Nagato, however, remained behind, his frustration evident as he hesitated before speaking. Grandfather, are you planning to take control of the Akatsuki? Uzumaki Chito chuckled softly, shaking his head. Why would I bother? The Akatsuki is nothing more than a child's game. If I wanted, I could dismantle the entire ninja world with ease. No, Nagato, that responsibility falls to you. Manage it as you see fit. Turning to Hidan, Uzumaki Chito issued a command. Stay within the Akatsuki. Train diligently, I have high hopes for you. Yes, Lord Chito, Hidan replied eagerly, bowing his head. I won't disappoint you. As Chito began to leave, he added, and Hidan keep an eye on Naruto during his solo missions. Nagato nodded, accepting the responsibility without hesitation. Understood. Uzumaki Chito glanced at Nagato, one of the last surviving members of the Uzumaki clan. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of relief. With his guidance, Nagato's influence would not veer toward destructive extremism, ensuring his survival. Satisfied, Uzumaki Chito returned to the land of whirlpools, initiating the development of Shin Konoha, a new village that would embody his vision for the future. Meanwhile, in Konoha, chaos reigned. Hiruzen Sarutobi offered the position of Hokage to Danzo, but the latter adamantly refused, unwilling to shoulder the burden. Left with no other option, Jiraiya reluctantly stepped into the role of the fifth Hokage. Hiruzen and Danzo assumed positions as high-level advisors, the highest rank Danzo was willing to accept. Though Jiraiya's leadership brought some stability, tensions remained high. The emergence of Shin Konoha, founded by Naruto Uzumaki, posed a direct challenge to Konoha's authority. To make matters worse, the other major ninja villages viewed Konoha's predicament with disdain. News spread that Omegakure had been assisting civilians in relocating to Shin Konoha, signaling a potential alliance between the two factions. In Konoha's council chambers, Hiruzen and Danzo discussed their next move. Their objective was clear, they could not allow Shin Konoha to establish itself. We must act carefully, Hiruzen warned. As long as we avoid harming those under Uzumaki Chito's protection, he will not intervene. Our goal is to prevent Shin Konoha's foundation while preserving Konoha's prestige. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. For comment. Vote. Chapter 13. Jiraiya's concern had been growing steadily, not just over Konoha's escalating tensions but also from a more personal issue, his hair. Stress seemed to be taking its toll, thinning his once lustrous locks. As a result, he decided to limit his use of jutsu that manipulated his hair. After all, hair loss was a nuisance no man wished to endure. Meanwhile, Hiruzen's analysis of Shin Konoha's potential had proven accurate. Once the village met the necessary population requirements, it could formally establish itself without the need for approval from any nation. With the backing of the mysterious figure supporting Shin Konoha, official recognition felt like a mere formality. How do we address Shin Konoha's growing population? Hiruzen mused aloud during a tense meeting in the Hokage's office. Let's issue a mission to intercept Shin Konoha's escort teams, he suggested, his gaze hardening. There was a flicker of cruelty in his eyes, a stark departure from the man many once knew. The repeated losses and the erosion of Konoha's influence had left Hiruzen increasingly bitter. Jiraiya and Danzo exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't the Hiruzen they remembered. The proposed mission meant targeting escort teams comprised of ninja, but it would inevitably endanger civilians as well. Such an act went against the principles Konoha once stood for. Jiraiya watched silently as Hiruzen issued the order. He struggled to reconcile this directive with the man who had once been his revered teacher. As Hiruzen disappeared into the shadows, retreating to his private sanctuary, Danzo sighed heavily. Placing a hand on Jiraiya's shoulder, he attempted to offer silent consolation. Yet even Danzo, who often took a more pragmatic view of leadership, couldn't deny his unease at Hiruzen's descent into extremism. In truth, Danzo felt that if Hiruzen had adopted such ruthlessness earlier, Konoha might have reached greater heights. But now, with Uzumaki Chito's return, Danzo had no interest in meddling further. He wanted no part in provoking a being as powerful and enigmatic as Chito. The burden of Hokage weighed heavily on Jiraiya. Though nominally in charge, Hiruzen's lingering influence as an advisor complicated every decision. Danzo, too, seemed content to withdraw from active leadership, tending to his garden and watching events unfold from a distance. Danzo even suspected that Uzumaki Chito had spared Hiruzen precisely because he foresaw the chaos that would follow should Hiruzen's presence persist in Konoha's leadership. It was a bitter irony that didn't escape him. Ultimately, Jiraiya relayed Hiruzen's order with reluctance, modifying it slightly to mitigate the damage. The mission would aim to halt the escort of civilians to Shin Konoha and disperse them without unnecessary harm. Thus began the growing conflict between Konoha and Shin Konoha. Tsunade, having traveled extensively, focused on locating displaced civilians in need of resettlement. Meanwhile, Might Guy's team prioritized recruiting war orphans, viewing them as promising candidates for loyal ninja. Together, they worked to bolster Shin Konoha's population. Naruto's recent actions in the Land of Rain had drawn Konoha's attention, especially along the route connecting the Land of Rain to the Land of Whirlpools. This distraction allowed Tsunade and Might Guy's operations to proceed largely unimpeded. But as Shin Konoha's movements became more evident, Jiraiya and Konoha's leaders convened again. We can't allow this to continue unchecked. We need a solution, Jiraiya urged, voicing the concern shared by many within the Hokage building. Attack Shin Konoha directly, Hiruzen commanded through gritted teeth, his frustration boiling over. Danzo and Jiraiya immediately vetoed the suggestion. Hiruzen, if you want to die, don't drag me down with you, Danzo warned coldly. The thought of challenging Uzumaki Chito, who presided over Shin Konoha, was nothing short of suicidal. Attacking Shin Konoha outright was beyond Konoha's capability. Even with the village's proud history, Uzumaki Chito's power was an insurmountable obstacle. Sensei, please calm down, Jiraiya implored. His respect for Hiruzen was being tested by his former mentor's increasingly erratic decisions. The darkness of Hiruzen's secluded stone chamber and his growing resentment toward Uzumaki Chito seemed to be clouding his judgment. Danzo, ever pragmatic, opted for passivity, retreating to his garden to reflect. Meanwhile, Konoha began issuing missions to neighboring villages, requesting their cooperation in intercepting Might Guy's and Tsunade's teams. This move highlighted Konoha's desperation. Once, these villages might have relished the prospect of Konoha's downfall. But now, many seemed content to watch both Old Konoha and Shin Konoha destroy each other. Despite the escort provided by a Megakure ninja, Naruto noticed something troubling. The number of civilians arriving at Shin Konoha was smaller than expected. Many perished along the way, while others fled in fear of becoming collateral damage in the escalating tensions. Naruto stood on the outskirts of Shin Konoha, surveying the latest arrivals. His hand, bandaged from a recent skirmish, throbbed a painful reminder of the growing aggression directed at his fledgling village. As the attacks intensified, his resolve only hardened. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. To comment. Vote. Chapter 14. Among the three key figures supporting Shin Konoha, Might Guy faced the least direct targeting. His role as a mentor to young orphans was not seen as an immediate threat, as the children under his care would need years to mature into effective contributors. Tsunade, however, was a different matter. She encountered significant hostility, particularly from Konoha's own ninjas. Tsunade-sama, I regret the Hokage's orders, Kakashi said flatly as he launched an attack against her, his demeanor cold and detached. Tsunade's reflexes, honed from years of experience, were sharp. With swift, decisive movements, she incapacitated the Konoha ninja surrounding her. Even Kakashi wasn't spared, her counterattack left him at a clear disadvantage. It's an order from the 5th Hokage, Kakashi explained emotionlessly, clutching the remnants of his injured right hand. Danzo's finally taken the seat, hasn't he? Tsunade sneered, her tone heavy with disdain. Kakashi's silence only confirmed her suspicions. In that moment, Tsunade gleaned all she needed to know. It was clear that Jiraiya's intentions for her had been subtly conveyed through Kakashi's actions. Using reverse summoning, Tsunade returned to the slug forest to tend to her wounds. Despite her injuries, she wasted no time. Once her condition was stabilized, she made her way back to the Land of Whirlpools, ensuring that the civilians under her protection reached Shin Konoha safely. Upon awakening in her bed, Shizune at her side, Tsunade immediately summoned a meeting with Might Guy and the other key figures of Shin Konoha. We've become targets for every major village, Tsunade announced gravely, her voice resolute. Although Might Guy and Rock Lee faced less direct targeting compared to Tsunade, they weren't exempt from challenges. Increasing pressure came from factions within the Rain Country, particularly Omegakure. The growing hostility underscored Shin Konoha's precarious position in the ninja world. Naruto and Nagato, recognizing the escalating conflict, reluctantly decided to withdraw Omegakure's support for Shin Konoha. It was a painful but necessary decision to prevent further strain on their tenuous alliance. It's war now, Naruto said bitterly, his voice heavy with the weight of realization. Establishing a village, he understood, was far more complex than he had anticipated. In response, Might Guy recounted the early struggles of Konoha's founders, emphasizing the harsh reality of building strength to establish dominance in the ninja world. We must be stronger, Might Guy said firmly, his words resonating with the group. Naruto, deeply determined, resolved to seek guidance from his grandfather, Uzumaki Chito. He believed Chito's wisdom could provide the clarity Shin Konoha needed to navigate these turbulent times. However, Tsunade interjected with a stern reminder. Naruto, she began, her tone steady, your grandfather expects us to solve our own problems. Relying on him too much will only weaken us in the long run. The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Tsunade's point was undeniable. Shin Konoha's fundamental weakness lay in its lack of skilled instructors to train its fledgling ninja. After a moment of contemplation, Tsunade proposed a bold solution. We need to look beyond Shin Konoha. Let's recruit capable individuals from other villages to strengthen our ranks. If we want to survive, we must adapt. Her proposal was met with agreement. Though risky, it was a necessary step toward fortifying Shin Konoha against the mounting threats it faced. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 1 comment. Vote. Chapter 15. The suggestion of stealing people left the room in a momentary silence as everyone exchanged surprised glances, their attention fixed on Tsunade. What's wrong? Tsunade asked, her tone suspicious as she sensed the sudden shift in atmosphere. Breaking the tension, Naruto quickly voiced his agreement. Tsunade's right. Recruiting trained ninja is far more practical than relying solely on civilians. It's best to focus on experienced ninjas who have retired from active duty, Might Guy added, nodding thoughtfully. Shizune diligently recorded their discussion, noting the strategies and objectives outlined for future recruitment efforts. Do you have any candidates in mind? Naruto asked, his uncertainty about where to start evident in his tone. Konoha has a wealth of skilled teachers, Guy suggested. Its ninja academy is renowned, and many of its instructors are highly capable. Tsunade agreed, recalling subtle hints from Jiraiya about Konoha's growing internal turmoil. These hints suggested that some instructors might be disillusioned or vulnerable enough to consider leaving. After some deliberation, the group decided to focus their recruitment efforts on Konoha. Their familiarity with the village and its resources made it the most logical choice, despite the risks involved. Under the cover of darkness, the trio made their way to Konoha. The village's curfew kept the streets eerily quiet, and the stark contrast between its current desolation and its former vibrancy was not lost on them. It's sad to see Konoha like this, Naruto murmured, his voice tinged with regret. Guided by Guy's knowledge of the village, they headed towards Kakashi Hataki's residence. However, upon arrival, they were greeted by an unusual sight: several ANBU teams stationed outside Kakashi's home. Tsunade's eyes narrowed. This isn't normal, she remarked, her voice low but sharp. The presence of ANBU at a residential home raised immediate suspicions. Adopting heightened caution, the trio concealed themselves and observed from a distance. Their vigilance was rewarded when Jiraiya emerged from Kakashi's residence, his expression grim as he exchanged words with the departing ANBU teams. Naruto's eyes lit up with eagerness. Should we try to recruit Jiraiya too? He's a veteran, and his skills would be invaluable. Might Guy shook his head immediately. Naruto, don't be reckless. Jiraiya is leagues ahead of us in power. Approaching him now would not only be dangerous but could jeopardize everything we've planned. Tsunade's firm voice cut through the conversation. Naruto, don't let your excitement cloud your judgment. What we're doing is already precarious. Acting impulsively will only make things worse. Her stern reprimand brought Naruto back to reality. He lowered his head, chastened. You're right, Tsunade. I'll be more careful. With Naruto acquiescing, the group decided to stick to their original plan and avoid unnecessary risks. Tsunade's resolute determination and the team's shared caution solidified their approach as they prepared for the next step in their recruitment efforts. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 1 comment. Vote. Chapter 16. Outside Kakashi's courtyard, only a small squad of 4 ANBU guards stood watch. I'll handle 2 of them, you 2 take the others, Naruto whispered, signaling to Tsunade and Might Guy before darting into action. Naruto's foxtails glimmered faintly in the moonlight as they lashed out, striking with deadly precision. The immense force locked onto the throats of 2 guards, crushing their laryngeal bones before they could react. Death came instantly. Tsunade and Might Guy moved just as swiftly, neutralizing the remaining guards in moments. The 4 bodies were dragged into a nearby ditch, where they would remain unnoticed until morning. None of this, however, concerned Naruto. The trio entered the courtyard, and Might Guy confidently produced a set of keys to the house. Wait, why do you even have the key to his house? Naruto asked, his face a mixture of shock and confusion. His thoughts raced. I always suspected there was something weird going on between you 2. Do they live together? Tsunade, sensing the inappropriate direction of Naruto's thoughts, subtly tugged at his sleeve. She silently vowed to keep Naruto far away from Konoha's infamous white-haired ninja in the future. With a click, the door swung open. Inside, Kakashi leaned casually against the wall, his gaze cold and unyielding. Guy, are you here to kill me? He asked flatly, his tone devoid of surprise. When Naruto and his team had dispatched the ANBU guards, Kakashi had immediately sensed the disturbance. Even if he couldn't pinpoint their chakra signatures, the disappearance of the guards was enough to alert him. And now, here they were. Kakashi, we're here to bring you back to Shin Konoha, Might Guy said earnestly. Konoha is rotten, and Shin Konoha is where you belong. As Kakashi's longtime partner and classmate, Guy couldn't stand to see him wasting away in the decaying remnants of their once proud village. Ridiculous, Kakashi snapped. If I shout for help, you'll be surrounded in seconds. Do you have any idea what you are doing? This was still Konoha, even in its current state. Its power wasn't something a few rogue shinobi could challenge. I know, Guy said firmly. But I'm still taking you with me. You don't belong here anymore. Naruto and Tsunade exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. To them, Guy's heartfelt declaration only reinforced their suspicion. These two definitely have some kind of relationship. Kakashi sighed. Guy's stubbornness wasn't new to him, but it seemed he'd have to fight his old friend to settle this. Don't forget our mission, Naruto interjected, breaking the tension. Their goal wasn't just Kakashi. They needed to take more than one ninja back to Shin Konoha. What exactly are you here for? Kakashi asked, narrowing his eyes. He couldn't quite figure out their true intentions. To steal people, Naruto replied bluntly. Shin Konoha needs teachers for its ninja academy. We came to Konoha to recruit, or rather, to take some. Naruto grinned slyly. We're really short on staff. You should come with us. Might Guy is already there. Kakashi's expression darkened. You're insane. This will start a war between the two villages. His hand instinctively moved to the hilt of his ninja sword. Don't move, Naruto warned, his voice cold. I can knock you out and drag you back if I have to. Before Kakashi could react, one of Naruto's foxtails shot forward, coiling around his neck with startling speed. When did he get so fast? Kakashi thought, shocked by Naruto's precision and strength. Despite himself, Kakashi couldn't help but feel regret. How did Konoha let someone with this much talent slip through its fingers? Naruto's raw potential was undeniable. In another life, he could have risen to the pinnacle of the ninja world, perhaps even surpassing the legends of old. But that life was gone. Instead, Naruto had built something new, Shin Konoha. In some ways, it reminded Kakashi of the village's founding. I don't know much, Naruto said, his voice softer now. But I do know this, Guy considers you a dear friend. And as annoying as he can be, he's one of my sensei. You can be too or not. That's up to you. Naruto's tone shifted again, becoming sharper, more commanding. But I'm done talking. Make your decision now. The tail around Kakashi's neck tightened slightly, the fur bristling like sharp needles against his skin. Kakashi closed his eyes and sighed. The Konoha he once loved was already gone. Perhaps it had disappeared the day his father took his own life, or when he saw his closest friends die one by one. Fine, Kakashi said at last, his voice tinged with resignation. I'll go with you. Let's see if Shin Konoha is what you claim it to be. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 0 comment. Vote. Chapter 17. Taking down Kakashi didn't take much effort. The white-haired, stubborn ninja had surprisingly agreed to join half-heartedly and on the spot, something Naruto hadn't anticipated. He had expected resistance, maybe even a bloody fight, but Kakashi had conceded so quickly that it felt almost anticlimactic. Now, here Kakashi was, walking alongside them and assisting in their plans, much to Naruto's disbelief. This guy's change of heart is a bit too fast, Naruto thought. To speed up their mission, the group split into pairs. Naruto's Nine-Tails mode ensured Kakashi couldn't easily pull anything suspicious. After all, despite Kakashi's agreement, none of them fully trusted him yet. In the dead of night, on a quiet, empty street, two figures moved swiftly. Tap, tap. The faint sound of their footsteps faded into the stillness. What are you looking at? Kakashi asked, stopping when he noticed Naruto had fallen behind, staring at a small shop they'd just passed. Naruto's eyes lingered on the sign above the shop. Ichiraku Ramen. Kakashi read aloud, his tone soft. Naruto, don't tell me you're hungry right now. Hey, Naruto. What are you thinking? Kakashi nudged him a few times. Hey. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts, answering honestly. Nothing, just thinking about something important. Important, hey. Kakashi said skeptically. You mean ramen? No. The most important thing for a village's development is, of course, its ninjas, Naruto declared, his voice resolute. But people also need a place to relax. Back when I was in Konoha, whenever I felt down, I'd come here and have a bowl of ramen. It made me feel better. Naruto's eyes sparkled with determination. Wouldn't it be great if the villagers of Shin Konoha had a place like this? A bowl of Ichiraku ramen when they're unhappy would do wonders for morale. Let me get this straight, Kakashi said, glancing at Naruto with suspicion. Are you doing this for the village or because you want to eat ramen? Naruto wiped away a bit of drool forming at the corner of his mouth, betraying his supposed seriousness. Anyway, Naruto said quickly, ignoring Kakashi's pointed look, let's bring Uncle Toki back to Shin Konoha. It's for the good of the village. Kakashi sighed, realizing there was no room for negotiation. You're the future leader of Shin Konoha, so it's your call. Naruto's resolute decision left no room for argument. Toki's house. Toki, the owner of Ichiraku Ramen, sighed as he looked at the unexpected guests standing in his home. It was late at night. What could they possibly want? Miss Hanabi, do you want a bowl of ramen? Toki asked politely, looking at the young Hyuga heiress who sat with an innocent expression on her face. The dignified princess of the Hyuga clan, sneaking out of her home at this hour, just to eat ramen? 2 bowls, actually, Hanabi corrected, holding up 2 fingers. My sister wanted one, but now I'm hungry too. Toki chuckled helplessly and got to work. Fine, fine. 2 bowls it is. Ayam, help entertain Miss Hanabi while I prepare the ramen. Toki's daughter, Ayam, grumbled as she climbed out of bed. Seriously, people wanting ramen at this hour. I'm going to age faster if this keeps up. Ayam pulled on a robe and walked into the main room when she noticed something strange, a dark shadow outside the window. Ah! Her scream was muffled as a hand covered her mouth. In the next instant, Ayam found herself restrained by Kakashi. What the hell, Kakashi? Why do we need to come in through the window? Naruto hissed as he climbed in behind him. Ah, Sister Ayam. It's been a while. Is Uncle Toki home? Naruto asked cheerfully, as if nothing unusual had just happened. Ayam, recognizing Naruto, froze. Her wide eyes filled with confusion and fear. Sister Ayam, don't panic, Naruto said quickly. We're here quietly. Don't tell anyone, okay? Ayam nodded reluctantly, realizing Naruto's situation. He was a wanted man now, a traitor to Konoha. Seeing her agreement, Naruto gestured for Kakashi to release her. The moment she felt Kakashi's grip loosen, Ayam slapped him hard across the face. Pervert. Where did you think you were touching just now? She shouted, her face red with embarrassment. Kakashi scratched the back of his head awkwardly, avoiding her gaze. Sorry, the situation was urgent. My bad. Naruto ignored the commotion and walked into the living room, where he saw a young girl sitting quietly. Are you part of Toki's family? Naruto asked, confused. I'm a Hyuga. I'm here to buy Ichiraku ramen, Hanabi replied. Naruto blinked. The Hyuga family? Then you must know Niji. Hanabi nodded. Brother Niji left Konoha with a big villain named Naruto Uzumaki, she said matter-of-factly. Naruto felt a pang of guilt at being labeled a villain but let her continue. And sister Hinata, too. She used to talk about how that bad guy loved Ichiraku ramen, and now she wants to eat it. So, I snuck out to buy some. Hanabi looked frustrated. Say, isn't Naruto Uzumaki a big bad guy? She asked, her voice accusatory. Naruto scratched his head, feeling a bit embarrassed. Well, yeah, I guess you could say that. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 0 comment. Vote. Chapter 18. The delicious Ichiraku ramen is here. The aroma of freshly prepared broth wafted through the air. The malted noodles glistened, topped with perfectly sliced pork layered delicately. The rich, savory scent of the broth was enough to make anyone's mouth water. This was Ichiraku ramen, the signature creation of Toki, the ramen master. Naruto's stomach growled loudly as the aroma reached him, and he nearly drooled at the sight of the steaming bowl. Yo, isn't this Naruto? I heard you defected, Toki said casually, handing a packaged bowl of ramen to Hanabi Hyuga, who jumped lightly from her seat to take it. Naruto noticed her agile movements and smiled faintly. She's already showing signs of a skilled ninja at such a young age. She's almost at the level of a genin. Meanwhile, Kakashi and Ayam reappeared, though Ayam's clothes were slightly disheveled, and her cheeks were flushed. Kakashi, are you bullying my daughter again? Toki asked sharply, narrowing his eyes at the silver-haired shinobi. As a regular customer of Ichiraku ramen, Toki had long been acquainted with Kakashi. But seeing him alongside Naruto, a Konoha defector, was unexpected. The world of ninjas was indeed full of surprises. I didn't. There was just a bit of a misunderstanding with Miss Ayam, but it's all cleared up now, Kakashi said quickly, raising his hands in defense. Bang. A large bowl of ramen slammed down in front of Kakashi, Ayam glaring at him with a fiery expression. Your ramen, she said curtly. I didn't order it. Kakashi replied, confused. If I made it, you eat it. And don't even think about leaving before you finish. Ayam snapped, her tone brooking no argument. Naruto chuckled at the tense atmosphere between them. Wow, Ayam rarely cooks herself. Looks like something definitely happened between the two of you just now. Enough staring. Eat your ramen, Naruto. It's been a while since you've had some, Toka said, placing a bowl in front of Naruto. Naruto's eyes lit up, and he wasted no time digging in. He took a big sip of the broth and sighed in satisfaction. This is it. The taste hasn't changed. Ichiraku ramen really is the best. Toka smiled. If it's that good, eat as much as you want. Naruto paused, setting his chopsticks down. Uncle Toki, aren't you even curious why I came back to Konoha? Toka shrugged, as indifferent as ever. It doesn't matter to me. Even if I reported your presence, the Hokage wouldn't lower my shop's rent. Naruto laughed. True. The third Hokage was always stingy. But I do have a reason for coming back this time, Naruto said, his tone growing serious. Shin Konoha is nearly ready. How about opening an Ichiraku ramen shop there? Toki and Ayam froze, staring at him in disbelief. Hey, they both said in unison. Naruto repeated himself. I want you to open Ichiraku ramen in Shin Konoha. The villagers there deserve the best ramen. Toki shook his head firmly. No way. I've been in Konoha for too long. I'm too old to move now. Even if Konoha's been chaotic lately. Even with the rent hikes and all the drama from the third and fifth Hokage. Naruto pressed. Toki hesitated but remained firm. I'm used to this place. I have regular customers here. Moving isn't an option. Naruto's eyes gleamed mischievously. The land of whirlpools, where Shin Konoha is being built, is surrounded by the sea. Fresh seafood is abundant, and the ingredients are even better than what you get here. Imagine creating a seafood ramen menu. Toki hesitated, visibly tempted. Seafood ramen? Is it really that good? It's amazing. Naruto declared. And more importantly. His voice dropped, taking on a somber tone. Konoha won't be safe much longer. I'm planning to attack the village in the future. You and Ayam shouldn't be here when that happens. Toki's expression hardened, and he glanced at Ayam. Naruto could see the worry in his eyes. And another thing. Naruto continued, seizing the opportunity. Ayam hasn't found a partner here in Konoha. Maybe in Shin Konoha, she'll have better luck. At that, Toki's resolve broke. Where's Shin Konoha? I'll start packing right now. Naruto grinned. Toki's decision had been made. For Ayam's future and the promise of new opportunities, Toki was ready to move. Toki and Ayam traveled light. Apart from his ancestral cooking tools, there wasn't much to bring. Naruto led them to the meeting point where the rest of his team awaited. Might Guy and Tsunade were already there, each enjoying a bowl of Ichiraku ramen. Next to Might Guy lay Irika, unconscious, and beside Tsunade was Mitarashi Anko, also knocked out. A small girl Hanabi Hyuga sat quietly nearby. When Tsunade and Might Guy saw Naruto approach with Toki and Ayam in tow, their jaws dropped. This is the ninja teacher you brought back? Tsunade and Guy asked in unison, completely petrified. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 3 comment. Vote. Chapter 19. Standing in front of Tsunade and Might Guy was none other than Konoha's strongest culinary ninja, the legendary creator of Ichiraku ramen, Toki. Tsunade clenched her fists, fighting the urge to punch Naruto into oblivion. He had promised to bring back ninja teachers, essential for the development of Shin Konoha. And what did he deliver? A ramen chef. The thought of Toka teaching a group of ninja children how to make ramen made Tsunade's blood boil. The sheer absurdity of it all was enough to make her question the future of Shin Konoha. Beside her, Might Guy sighed. He too felt a twinge of despair as he looked at Naruto, the supposed future Hokage of their new village. What about this little girl? She's the Hyuga clan's little princess Hyuga Hanabi, Naruto said, frowning as he realized the gravity of the situation. The significance of Hanabi's identity wasn't lost on anyone. The Hyuga clan, alongside the Uchiha clan, was one of the two most prominent families in Konoha. Their reputation extended far beyond the village, and they valued their clan members deeply, especially someone like Hanabi, the treasured youngest daughter of the main family. This is a serious problem, Might Guy said helplessly. If I'd known this would happen, I wouldn't have taken those 2 bowls of ramen, Tsunade muttered, equally distressed. The whole situation had spiraled out of control. After they had secured Irika and Mitarashi Anko, Tsunade had noticed Hanabi carrying 2 bowls of Ichiraku ramen. Her craving had gotten the better of her, and she had, quite literally, robbed the little Hyuga princess. We need to send her back as soon as possible, Naruto said, glancing at Hanabi. She was a ticking time bomb, and keeping her in Shin Konoha would only invite disaster. If the Hyuga clan finds out she's missing, they'll stop at nothing to get her back. Agreed. Let's get rid of this burden immediately, Tsunade said, eager to wash her hands of the situation. But before they could act, a flare lit up the night sky above Konoha, a ninja warning signal. Kakashi's expression darkened. It's too late. The Hyuga clan has already discovered that Hanabi is missing. Move. Now. Toki, sensing the urgency, clutched his cooking tools tightly. The disappearance of the Hyuga clan's princess was no small matter. Tsunade slung Anko over her shoulder effortlessly. Might Guy grabbed Irika and dashed forward. Kakashi carried Ayam, while Naruto hoisted Hanabi onto his back. Just leave her here, Tsunade grumbled. She's nothing but trouble. Naruto shook his head. There are too many foreign ninjas in Konoha right now. If we leave her behind, she could get hurt or worse. Tsunade sighed in resignation. Fine, but we need to move faster. Follow me. Kakashi barked, leading the group as they fled the village. Back in Konoha, the Hyuga clan's alarm had woken Jiraiya from a rare moment of sleep. As Hokage, he hadn't had a peaceful night in what felt like ages. What's going on? He asked groggily as a member of the ANBU appeared in his room. Hokage-sama, the Hyuga clan's little princess, Hyuga Hanabi, has disappeared, the ANBU operative reported. Jiraiya's drowsiness evaporated instantly. This is bad, really bad. The Hyuga clan was in chaos, their members frantically searching for Hanabi throughout the village. The ANBU and root organizations were also assisting in the search. We've also discovered several other disappearances, the ANBU added. Speak, Jiraiya commanded. Hitaki Kakashi, Domino Irika, Mitarashi Anko, and Ichiraku Ramen's Toki and Ayam are all missing. Jiraiya frowned. Ignore the civilians for now. Focus on the ninjas. Kakashi, Irika, and Anko disappearing at the same time can't be a coincidence. They must be connected. Meanwhile, at the Hyuga clan compound, Hiashi Hyuga was livid. Nearly all the clan's shinobi had been mobilized to search for Hanabi. Father, it's my fault, Hinata said softly, her eyes brimming with tears. I wanted to eat Ichiraku ramen, so Hanabi went to buy it for me. Hayashi's stern expression softened slightly. He sighed deeply. Hinata, return to your room and reflect on your actions. He couldn't stay angry at her, but this situation needed to be handled carefully. Turning to a shadowy figure nearby, Hayashi gave his next command. Contact the Inazuka clan. Minutes later, an Inazuka ninja came, Inazuka-ja, arrived with his ninja dog/wolf, Wolf Fang. I'm sorry to trouble you, Hayashi said solemnly, bowing slightly. No trouble at all. Jo replied cheerfully. He glanced around the area, his sharp eyes taking in every detail. Then, he turned to Wolf Fang. It's up to you now. Wolf Fang sniffed the air and barked softly. What is it? Ja asked, crouching down. Wolf Fang barked again, his tail wagging. Ja straightened up. He says a lot of people were here recently, and Hanabi's scent is among them. Hayashi and the other Hyuga clan members visibly relaxed. At least now they had a lead. Let's move, Hayashi said firmly. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 1 comment. Vote. Chapter 20. Woo woo. The wolves. Whimper was low and rhythmic, its meaning clear to Inazuka-ja, who crouched down to listen intently. You're saying there were 2 people with strong auras, and Miss Hanabi was taken by them. The wolf nodded, its keen senses confirming the grim news. Inazuka-ja straightened, his expression serious. Hayashi Hyuga's face darkened. Capturing Hanabi was no small matter. If the culprits were ninja from a hostile village, the implications could be catastrophic. Wolf Fang, lead the way, Inazuka-ja commanded, understanding the urgency of the situation. The ninja dog sniffed the ground carefully, following the faint scent trail. Finally, it pointed in a direction. They left the village, Inazuka-ja confirmed, looking at Hayashi. Damn it. Hayashi's Byakugan hadn't yet activated, but the veins near his temples bulged in frustration. Ja, I'll need your help, Hayashi said firmly. Don't worry about compensation. Ha. Don't be ridiculous, Inazuka-ja replied with a grin. You don't need to pay me for this. Let's get moving. Without hesitation, the group began their pursuit, quickly heading toward the edge of Konoha village. At the village gate, a guard stepped forward, blocking their way. Stop. It's curfew. No one is allowed to leave the village at this time. Hayashi's patience snapped. With a swift movement, he delivered a soft fist strike, knocking the guard to the ground. Useless fool, Hayashi muttered angrily. You couldn't even keep enemies from coming and going freely in Konoha. Hayashi's anger wasn't just directed at the guard. His frustration stemmed from Konoha's poor leadership. The village had allowed the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki to leave, alienated powerful allies, and made reckless decisions that left them vulnerable. Now, his own daughter had been taken. This wasn't the Konoha Hayashi had once believed in. The group exited the village quickly, following Wolf Fang's lead. Soon, the faint aroma of ramen lingered in the air. Is that Ichiraku ramen? Inazuka-ja muttered, recognizing the familiar scent. Hayashi's expression soured. Hanabi bought ramen to cheer up her sister. That must be why the scent is here, he said, piecing things together. That's not all, Inyazuka-ja added, squinting. There are traces of other people here. 4, to be exact. It looks like they stayed here for a while. Hiashi clenched his fists. Keep going. We can't let them escape. Meanwhile, Naruto's group had stopped to rest. I can't go on. I'm exhausted, Kakashi muttered, leaning heavily against a tree. His chakra reserves, as usual, were nearly depleted. The others agreed to pause for a moment. Hyuga Hanabi, who had been unconscious until now, stirred awake. Her sharp eyes immediately locked onto Naruto. You're Naruto Uzumaki, aren't you? The liar who tricked my brother into leaving, she accused, her tone full of anger. Naruto blinked, taken aback. Wait. How can you call it lying? I didn't trick him. Tsunade, overhearing this, leaned in with a smirk. Oh? Sounds complicated just like Kakashi and Might Guy's relationship. Tisk tisk. Kakashi's face darkened beneath his mask. If you weren't Tsunade, I'd challenge you for that comment. Toki, overhearing the exchange, glanced at Kakashi suspiciously. A relationship, hey? Kakashi, you've got some explaining to do. Ignoring the tension, Hanabi's eyes welled up with tears. My Ichiraku ramen. I didn't even get to eat it. Her pitiful cry drew everyone's attention. Naruto shot a glare at Tsunade and Might Guy, the real culprits behind the ramen theft. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't even have this problem. They just had to steal the little girl's ramen. What a mess. Naruto sighed. How about this, Uncle Toki can make you another bowl when we get to Shin Konoha. Kakashi interrupted before Hanabi could respond. There's no time for that. The Hyuga clan won't stop. We need to move. Let's leave her here, Might Guy suggested. This area is remote, and there aren't many ninja around. She should be safe. Tsunade nodded in agreement. That sounds like a solid plan. Before Naruto could protest, Hanabi shouted, I won't stay behind. I'm going to find Brother Niji, and I'm going to find Uzumaki Chito. It's all his fault I can't go out and play anymore. Her small fists clenched in frustration, but her curiosity shone through. I want to see how strong this Uzumaki Chito really is. Naruto's face turned serious. Watch your mouth. Uzumaki Chito was the teacher of the first Hokage. You should show him respect. Hanabi pouted but didn't back down. Her fiery determination mirrored the Hyuga clan's unyielding spirit. Naruto, however, wasn't about to let a child disrespect one of the greatest figures in his eyes. He scowled, giving her a stern look. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. For comment. Vote. Chapter 21. Hanabi heard Naruto's words but chose to ignore them, pursing her lips stubbornly. Tsunade, irritated by the situation, muttered something under her breath before resuming their escape. Naruto, Kakashi, and the others pushed forward, ignoring their dwindling chakra reserves. Not long after, Inyazuka-ja and his wolf Fang, arrived at the area where Naruto's group had paused. They stopped here for a while, Inyazuka-ja observed, glancing at Hiashi Hyuga, who was beside him. They must have run out of chakra and needed to rest, Hiashi said, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the distance. With a soft step, Hiashi leapt forward, his Byakugan activating. The veins near his temples bulged, a testament to the chakra flowing into his eyes. As he pushed more chakra into them, his sight pierced through obstacles, giving him a clear view of Naruto's fleeing group. Uzumaki Naruto. Tsunade. Might Guy. Kakashi. Hayashi's teeth clenched. Kakashi has betrayed Konoha. The realization hit him hard. The sight of his youngest daughter, Hanabi, among their captives only fueled his anger. Hiashi had long harbored resentment toward Shin Konoha, primarily because of their ability to lift the caged bird seal. This development had caused unrest within the Hyuga clan, as many branch family members sought to defect to Shin Konoha for freedom. Hiashi had been forced to seal off the clan to prevent mass desertion. Now, with Hanabi in Naruto's hands, the situation felt like a direct challenge. Ichiraku Toki and Ayam are with them as well? And Irika? Mitarashi Anko? What's the connection between these people? Hiashi muttered to himself. The randomness of the group only deepened his confusion. Naruto, feeling uneasy as they ran, glanced around nervously. Something's not right. I feel like we're being watched, he muttered. You're just tense, Might Guy said, trying to reassure him. No, Kakashi interjected, his voice firm. It's the Byakugan. The Hyuga clan is close. Everyone froze for a moment, the weight of Kakashi's words sinking in. The Byakugan's unparalleled range meant they were running out of time. Their pace quickened, but the burdens they carried Hanabi, Toki, Ayam, Irika, and Anko slowed them down. We can't keep running forever, Naruto said, gripping a talisman in his hand. It was his last resort, a means to summon his grandfather, Uzumaki Chito, if things went south. But Naruto wanted to avoid relying on it unless absolutely necessary. Despite their efforts, Hiashi and his group quickly closed the gap. Uzumaki Naruto, stop running. You can't escape. Hayashi's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. Naruto slowed to a stop, instinctively shielding Hanabi as he turned to face the Hyuga patriarch. Hayashi scanned the group, his gaze softening slightly when he saw that Hanabi was unharmed. Hanabi is here. Take her and leave, Naruto said, his tone calm but firm. Hanabi, however, shouted in protest. I don't want to go back. Naruto stared at her, dumbfounded. Her outburst caught Inuzuka off guard, and he let out a chuckle before quickly apologizing to Hayashi. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. The Hyuga clan members behind Hayashi averted their gazes, some hiding smiles. Hanabi's fiery personality was well known. Hanabi, return to me at once, Hayashi said, his voice strained as he fought to maintain his composure. She's my daughter, my own daughter. He reminded himself repeatedly. I don't want to. Hanabi declared, shaking her head. I'm going to find Brother Niji, and I want to meet Uzumaki Chito. It's all his fault I can't play freely anymore. Hayashi's patience frayed further. Naruto, watching the exchange, asked coolly, what's it going to be, Hayashi? Will you take her and leave, or do we settle this another way? Behind Naruto, 4 tails of the 9 tails began to manifest. The 4th tail flickered, unstable, as Naruto prepared for either combat or flight. Hayashi sighed heavily, glancing at Inuzuka for his input. Miss Hanabi's safety should come first, Inuzuka said after a moment's thought. Hayashi exhaled deeply. He knew where Inuzuka's loyalty lay. He had once been in the same team as Minato Namikaze, Naruto's father. That bond wasn't something Hayashi could ignore. But as the Hyuga patriarch, Hayashi couldn't afford to be so lenient. His clan's reputation and Konoha's authority were at stake. The Hyuga clan cannot ignore Konoha's traitors, Hayashi said grimly. Naruto, sensing the tension, shook his head. So, that's how it's going to be. Hayashi's expression hardened. Negotiations have failed, Naruto said, his voice calm but resolute. Let's fight. Equals 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 equals. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Equals 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 equals. Comment. 0 comment. Vote. Chapter 22. The moment Naruto saw the expression on Hayashi's face change, he realized there was no way to escape. Unless, he abandoned the others. But could he really do that? The 4th tail of his 9 tails chakra cloak solidified, the bright yang energy radiating from him like a miniature sun. If we can't run, we'll fight. Naruto roared, forming a massive raised nan in his hand and launching it at Hayashi Hyuga with the force of a thunderbolt. Tsunade and the others set down the individuals they had been carrying and immediately prepared for battle. Don't underestimate me, boy, Hayashi muttered, dodging the raised nan with ease and closing the distance between himself and Naruto. The Hyuga clan excelled in close combat, and Hayashi's movements were precise and deadly. Naruto, however, thrived in hand-to-hand combat as well, his 9 tails chakra giving him immense strength. Fist met fist, leg clashed against leg, neither seemed to gain an advantage. Despite Naruto's overwhelming power, Hayashi's precision in redirecting and neutralizing attacks was masterful. His chakra-coated palms delivered pinpoint strikes to Naruto's body, disrupting his chakra flow with each hit. This was Gentle Fist, the Hyuga clan's signature taijutsu, designed to inflict internal damage while leaving minimal external wounds. Hayashi ducked under one of Naruto's swings, his palm striking Naruto's abdomen with devastating force. The blow sent Naruto flying backward, blood spilling from his mouth as he hit the ground. Damn, you're strong, Naruto muttered, standing back up and wiping the blood from his lips. His injuries healed rapidly as the 9 tails chakra surged through his body. Though the damage lingered, his resilience gave him an edge. How is this possible? Hayashi exclaimed, his eyes widening. You should be severely injured by now. Naruto grinned. Try keeping up with this. With a sly smile, Naruto summoned several shadow clones, each charging at Hayashi with their own raised nan. Hayashi's eyes narrowed as he activated his signature defense. 8 trigrams palms revolving heaven. The chakra barrier he created spun like a whirlwind, repelling the clones and dissipating their raised nan attacks in bursts of smoke. But Naruto had anticipated this. A massive raised nan hovered in his hand, and he dashed forward, breaking through Hayashi's defense and landing a direct hit. Boom! Hayashi flew backward, crashing into the ground as his robes shredded from the impact. Dust and debris filled the air as a deep trench formed where he had been dragged. Father! Hanabi cried out, covering her eyes in fear. Hayashi's clan members rushed to his side, but Naruto waved dismissively. Don't worry. He's not down for good. The Hyuga patriarch wouldn't lose to a single raised nan, Naruto said, throwing another raised nan into the dust cloud to keep Hayashi down. We need to finish this and head back to Shin Konoha, Naruto called out to the others. Tsunade, Kakashi, and Might Guy quickly dispatched the remaining Hyuga clan members, taking advantage of their superior strength. The Hyuga reinforcements, despite their numbers, couldn't keep up. With the battle turning in their favor, Naruto picked up Hanabi and began their retreat. Hiashi, lying on the ground, clenched his fists in frustration. His Byakugan flickered as blood dripped from his mouth, a result of both his injuries and his anger. Inyazuka-cha, help me up, Hiashi said. You okay? Inyazuka asked, lifting Hiashi to his feet. I'm fine. Everyone, regroup. We'll recover and continue the pursuit, Hiashi ordered, sitting cross-legged to begin meditating and restoring his chakra. As Inyazuka-cha looked at Naruto's retreating figure, he couldn't help but think of Minato Namikaze. He's definitely his father's son. The same determination, the same raw power. Naruto's group finally slowed as Shin Konoha came into view. It was then that Naruto realized he was still carrying Hanabi. Startled, he unceremoniously dropped her to the ground. Ah! Hanabi yelped, getting up and brushing herself off. That hurt, you idiot. Tsunade sighed, giving Naruto an exasperated look. Why did you bring her here too? Naruto scratched his head sheepishly. I figured if we left her behind, Hiashi wouldn't stop chasing us. Better to bring her along and avoid future problems. Tsunade frowned. That's only going to cause more trouble. We don't need her here. Let's leave her behind now. Before anyone could respond, Hanabi stood up defiantly. I'm not staying behind. I want to go to Shin Konoha. Take me there. If that makes me a traitor, so be it. I'll be a traitor. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 6 comment. Vote. Chapter 23. Shin Konoha wasn't far now, and Naruto knew the Hyuga family would catch up soon if they lingered. Let's wait here for the Hyuga family and give the kid back to them, Naruto decided without hesitation, glancing at Hanabi. Keeping her around seemed pointless. She was noisy, stubborn, and more trouble than she was worth. No. I'm not going back. I want to see Uzumaki Chito. Hanabi protested loudly, her voice filled with defiance. Before she could continue, Tsunade knocked her out with a swift strike to the back of her neck. She was getting a bit too loud, Tsunade remarked with a sisterly smile, though her tone carried an undeniable edge. Naruto and the others shuddered slightly. Tsunade really is the scariest one. Not long after, Iruka and Mitarashi Anko began to stir, finally waking up after their earlier capture. The battle and subsequent running hadn't roused them, but now, for some reason, they were regaining consciousness. Iruka groaned, holding the back of his head. What happened? It feels like someone hit me. Mitarashi Anko, on the other hand, quickly scanned her surroundings, her instincts sharp from her time as Orochimaru's apprentice. Her eyes immediately locked onto Tsunade, Might Guy, Kakashi, and Naruto. Tsunade-sama? Guy? Kakashi? What's going on? She asked, piecing things together. The formidable group standing before her left little doubt she had been kidnapped. Don't overthink it, Anko, Tsunade said, her tone calm yet firm. This has nothing to do with Orochimaru. Shin Konoha needs ninja teachers for its academy, and you're one of the best candidates. That's why we brought you here. Anko raised an eyebrow, her confusion giving way to grudging acceptance. Meanwhile, Iruka's attention was fixed on Naruto. The sight of his former student, now labeled a traitor, stirred a mixture of emotions. Are you okay, Naruto? Iruka asked softly, his voice filled with genuine concern. Naruto nodded. I'm fine. My grandpa helped me with my physical issues, so I'm doing much better now. Iruka smiled faintly, relieved. Naruto had always been special to him, a student he cared deeply about. Seeing him grow, even under these circumstances, was bittersweet. That's good to hear, Iruka said warmly. Sensei, Naruto began, his tone turning serious, would you consider coming to Shin Konoha? We have so many kids who need good teachers like you. Naruto's words were earnest. He truly believed Iruka was the kind of teacher who could inspire and care for students equally, regardless of their background. Iruka hesitated, torn between his love for Konoha and his passion for teaching. Naruto. Iruka's voice grew solemn. Answer me honestly, are you planning to destroy Konoha? Naruto didn't flinch. The question had lingered in his mind countless times, and his answer was clear. Where the trees grow again and the leaves fly, there will be a fire burning in the midst of the ruins. Konoha doesn't get destroyed, it gets reborn. Naruto's eyes burned with conviction as he continued, Iruka-sensei, you've seen the injustices in Konoha. The children from the big clans are treated well, while the kids from ordinary families struggle for scraps. The death toll is always higher for those without privilege. Is that the kind of Konoha you want to see? Iruka remained silent, listening intently. Shin Konoha will be different. We won't withhold education or resources from anyone. Every child will have the same opportunities. That's why we need teachers like you, who treat all students equally. Nothing will change except the place. The spirit of what Konoha should be will stay alive. Naruto's words struck a chord with Iruka. The inequalities Naruto described were all too familiar. He had lived them himself as an ordinary ninja. Even Might Guy seemed moved, remembering how his father, Might Do, had been overlooked and underestimated despite his strength. Iruka's hesitation gave way to resolve. His once hollow gaze filled with purpose. All right, Naruto, Iruka said firmly. I'll help you. I'll come to Shin Konoha. Naruto's face lit up with a genuine smile. He had always respected Iruka, and having him as part of Shin Konoha felt like a victory. Meanwhile, Anko made her decision even faster. She smirked and said, fine, I'll join too on one condition. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. And what's that? I want to meet Orochimaru again. There are some things I need to ask him. Tsunade sighed but nodded. Fine. Consider it a deal. Anko's allegiance was secured, albeit with a slight catch. Tsunade didn't mind. It was a small price to pay for such a talented ninja. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 1 comment. Vote. Chapter 24. When Hyuga arrived at the scene, he wasn't just facing 4 individuals. Iruka, Anko, you two. Hyashi's voice was laced with disbelief. His feet felt heavy, as if he had suddenly aged a decade. You were kidnapped, and now you're already defecting? Because we believe in the ideals of Shin Konoha, Anko and I have both decided to join. The will of fire will live on here, Iruka said confidently, a spark of hope in his eyes. Hayashi felt a headache coming on. Then why are you still here, Hanabi? His gaze fell on his rebellious daughter, who was tied up but still managed to look defiant. Miss Hanabi is being returned to you, Tsunade said curtly, unceremoniously placing the bound girl on the ground. Please take her and leave. Ignoring Hanabi's struggles, Naruto and his group retreated. They had no desire to continue the confrontation with Hayashi, whose strength and the Hyuga clan's tenacity were formidable. Hayashi waited until Naruto and the others were at a safe distance before kneeling to untie Hanabi. Are you all right, Hanabi? Hayashi asked, pulling her into his arms. I'm fine, Hanabi huffed. But I want to go to Shin Konoha. I want to see Brother Niji, and I want to tie up all those people who dared to bully me. Hayashi looked at his daughter, torn between exasperation and affection. Good girl. I'll tie them all up for you soon. Then his gaze shifted toward Naruto's retreating figure. You heard her. Hanabi wants you all tied up. As her father, it's my duty to fulfill her wishes. Will you surrender quietly, or shall I do it myself? Hayashi's tone was calm, but the threat was unmistakable. He added, Naruto, you're still not quite on your father's level. Hayashi's dissatisfaction with Konoha ran deep, stemming from years of watching the village's politics unfold. The destruction of the Uchiha clan had been a chilling reminder of Konoha's darker side, and the way they treated the 4th Hokage's son was nothing short of disgraceful. Naruto's expression darkened at the mention of his father, but he quickly steeled himself. You think you can capture me? Keep dreaming, Naruto said, a raised nan forming in his hand as he hurled it toward Hayashi. Chase them. Hayashi commanded, and the Hyuga clan sprang into action. Shin Konoha's territory is just ahead, one Hyuga clan member reported as they pursued. Hayashi paused. The idea of chasing Naruto all the way into Shin Konoha sent a chill down his spine. If the Hyuga clan pushed too far, it could result in their estrangement from Konoha, possibly even their destruction, like the Uchiha clan. Shin Konoha, with its ties to the 1st Hokage's teacher, Uzumaki Chito, and the 4th Hokage's son, Naruto Uzumaki, was steeped in legitimacy. Its growing strength made it impossible to dismiss. Set up camp here, Hayashi ordered. We'll rest before making any further decisions. As his clan began setting up a bonfire, Inyazuka-ja approached him. I'll head back to Konoha. The village will need an explanation. Hayashi nodded. Be careful on the road. Ja smiled knowingly. He could see Hayashi's internal conflict and hoped his departure would ease tensions. The Inyazuka clan had no desire to see the Hyuga clan collapse and had long sought an alliance for mutual survival. Late into the night, while the Hyuga clan rested, Hayashi slipped out of the camp with Hanabi on his back. Are we really leaving like this? Hanabi asked, yawning. Hayashi's voice was quiet but firm. There are people in the camp who can't be trusted. I'll take you to Shin Konoha myself. Hanabi blinked sleepily. Are they rebels, like the ones in Shin Konoha? No, Hayashi replied. Shin Konoha's rebels can still be reasoned with. The ones in our camp have betrayed the family completely and been brainwashed. Hayashi's voice carried a hint of bitterness as he spoke. As they approached the boundaries of Shin Konoha, a powerful presence stirred within the village. In the heart of Shin Konoha, Uzumaki Chito opened his eyes, a faint smile on his lips. It seems a familiar child has arrived. However, the numerous spies surrounding Shin Konoha hadn't gone unnoticed. Chito's chakra flared, spreading a majestic and oppressive aura from the village's center. Outside Shin Konoha's borders, ninjas who didn't belong to the village felt the crushing pressure. One by one, they collapsed to the ground, unable to resist the overwhelming force. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 1 comment. Vote. Chapter 25. Hyuga felt the overwhelming, crushing force pressing down on him. Byakugan, activate. Chakras surged through his body as he resisted the godlike aura. Despite his efforts, it felt as though his bones were about to shatter. The power was immense, far beyond anything he could hope to counter. For Hanabi, it was the first time seeing Hyuga like this, his Byakugan fully activated and veins bulging around his eyes. The sight was terrifying. Hyuga's legs sank into the ground under the weight of the oppressive force. If not for his Hyuga physiology and mastery of the 8 trigrams techniques, which excel at deflecting and absorbing impact, he would likely have been crushed entirely. Around him, ninjas who had come to spy on Shin Konoha were flattened to the ground, their bodies prostrate. They had experienced this pressure before and knew the only way to survive was to submit completely. But this time, none of them would wake up again. Hyuga struggled to remain upright, his heart pounding as he wondered if this would be his end. He glanced at Hanabi, her small form trembling in his arms. If I die here, what will happen to her? To the Hyuga clan? Unwillingness burned in his chest. He gritted his teeth, glaring into the oppressive force. He couldn't accept dying like this, helpless and humiliated. But just as suddenly as the pressure had come, it vanished. Hyuga, still braced against the force, staggered forward, his body betraying him as he spat a mouthful of blood. Are the gods toying with me? Before he could gather himself, a figure appeared before him, stepping gracefully out of a tear in space. Dressed in flowing white robes, with an ethereal and commanding presence, Uzumaki Chito had arrived. His demeanor was serene, yet his presence was suffused with an undeniable power. Hanabi's eyes widened in awe. To her, he looked like a celestial being, untethered by the mundane world. Her heart raced as she stared at him. He's so handsome. Hyuga, it's been years, Uzumaki Chito said calmly, taking Hanabi from Hyuga's arms. Hanabi's face flushed as she processed the situation. He's holding me. He's actually holding me. Hyuga's voice was strained as he replied, thank you for sparing us, Lord Chito. It's just some internal injuries, nothing serious. His words were deferential, the pride of the Hyuga clan subdued in the face of overwhelming power. Uzumaki Chito smiled faintly. You've always been a good child, Hyuga, but it seems you've changed. His eyes, though calm, seemed to pierce straight through Hyuga's soul. Hyuga straightened despite his pain, refusing to appear weak. Lord Chito, I have not changed. Konoha has always been my home. Yet you blame me for disturbing its peace, Chito said, his tone unwavering. Hyuga's fists clenched. You did disturb it. Konoha was peaceful until you reappeared. If you hadn't. Peaceful like the Uchiha clan destruction? Peaceful like Hisashi sacrificed? Is that the peace you speak of? Chito's voice turned cold, cutting through Hyuga's protest. Hyuga's face twisted with suppressed anger. Hisashi's death ensured peace for the village. It was a sacrifice worth making. There is no peace that comes from compromise, Chito replied sharply. Do you want the same peace you had before? Here's your chance. Challenge me. Hyuga's body trembled, but not from fear. Chito's words struck a nerve. He wanted to refute them, but deep down, he couldn't. Chito extended a pale green chakra into Hyuga's body, healing his internal injuries with ease. Hyuga felt his soreness and fatigue vanish, replaced by strength and clarity. The sensation was nothing short of miraculous. Your injuries are healed, Chito said. Now, attack me. This is your only chance. Hyuga hesitated. The enormity of Chito's power weighed heavily on him. The man standing before him wasn't just a ninja, he was a force of nature. What's wrong? Chito asked, a faint smile curling at the corners of his lips. Do you lack the courage? Hyuga's breath hitched. For years, he had believed Hisashi's sacrifice was necessary for Konoha's peace. But Chito's words planted doubt. Why did we have to compromise? Why wasn't Konoha strong enough to protect everyone without sacrifice? Chito continued, his voice calm yet piercing. You believe Hisashi's death was justified. But if Konoha had been strong enough, there would have been no need to look to others for approval. Strength demands respect, Hyuga. Konoha used to command it. What happened to that village? Hyuga's Byakugan activated once more. The veins around his eyes bulged as he clenched his fists. He could feel Chito's judgment, and it stung deeply. You said this is my only chance, Hyuga said, his voice low but steady. Then I will give it my all. Chito's expression didn't change as he watched Hyuga prepare his attack. His calm demeanor only fueled Hyashi's determination. With a battle cry, Hayashi lunged forward. His fists moved with blinding speed, his gentle fist technique aiming to disrupt Chito's chakra network. His strikes were precise and relentless, each one filled with the weight of his pride and frustration. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 5 comment. Vote. Chapter 26. As Hayashi Hyuga launched his attack, Uzumaki Chito stood still, smiling calmly. I thought years of comfort had stolen your courage, Chito said softly. With a single finger, he intercepted Hayashi's gentle fist. The chakra invasion that was supposed to disrupt his internal network had no effect. Hayashi felt as though he was striking an immovable mountain. After all these years, your strength remains fragile, Chito said, almost bored. Enough. With a slight flick of his finger, Chito sent Hayashi hurtling backward. The concentrated force rippled through Hayashi's body, spreading from his fist to every bone. The chakra invading Hayashi's body mimicked the Hyuga clan's techniques, but magnified to a terrifying degree. This is Hayashi's thoughts raced. The technique was unmistakably gentle fist. Perfected to an unparalleled level. But before he could respond, his body betrayed him. His bones shattered under the pressure, leaving him defenseless. Do you feel it? Chito asked, his tone casual as he rubbed his wrist. This is the pinnacle of the Hyuga clan's gentle fist. A forgotten art in your family's current generation. Hayashi could only stare at Chito in disbelief and resentment, his body limp from the overwhelming force. Don't look at me like that, Chito said flatly. If you were stronger, you could do the same to me. Strength is the foundation of a village. Compromise only invites others to exploit you. As he spoke, Chito's pale green chakra seeped into Hayashi's body, repairing the damage he had inflicted. Bones mended, muscles restored. It was as if the attack had never happened. This time, I'll let it slide. You're free to leave, Chito said, his voice dismissive as he turned to go. Hayashi, though healed, was still shaken. He hesitated for only a moment before reaching for Hanabi, ready to leave Shin Konoha territory as quickly as possible. But Chito's next words stopped him cold. Ah, I almost forgot. Since you dared to come here, you'll need to leave something behind as compensation. Chito waved his hand, and a gust of wind struck Hayashi's acupoints, paralyzing him in place. Leave the girl, Chito said simply, taking Hanabi from Hayashi's arms. Lord Chito. Hayashi tried to intercede, but Chito turned his back, tearing open space to leave with Hanabi in tow. Hayashi could only watch, helpless, as the white-robed figure disappeared. The paralysis faded moments later, and Hayashi stumbled out of Shin Konoha's range, his mind reeling. Return to Konoha immediately. Hayashi shouted, unleashing his chakra in frustration. The humiliation burned deeply, and Chito's methods crushing him and then healing him sent shivers down his spine. The Hyuga clan's group didn't even bother packing their camp. They fled back to Konoha, disheveled and defeated. In Shin Konoha, Chito returned with Hanabi cradled in his arms. Lord Chito, why is this child here? Tsunade asked, frowning at the unexpected situation. She's part of the compensation from the Hyuga family, Chito replied with a faint smile. Besides, she wants to find Niji. Let her stay for now. He paused, then added, it's time for her to attend school. Enroll her in the first class of the Shin Konoha Ninja Academy. Tsunade sighed but nodded. All right. I'll take care of it. Don't overthink it, Tsunade, Chito said, sensing her unease. He lightly touched her hand, his gaze calm yet firm. I wasn't overthinking anything, Lord Chito, Tsunade replied quickly. Although, we still don't have enough teachers. Even with the 5 we've recruited, it's not enough. Then recruit more. Hire them, poach them, or take them by force if you must. Tsunade frowned. After this incident, Konoha will be on guard. Who said you can only target Konoha? Chito said. There are other villages. Expand your scope. Tsunade nodded reluctantly. Understood. I'll look into the next target. Good. Now, take the girl, Chito said, handing the still sleeping Hanabi to Tsunade. Back in Konoha, the Hyuga clan returned in disgrace. Their hurried and disheveled state caused quite a stir. Hayashi wasted no time submitting his report to the 5th Hokage. What? Kakashi, Iruka, and Anko defected. And Toki and Ayame as well. Jiraiya exclaimed, staring at the report in disbelief. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. To comment. Vote. Chapter 27. Danzo initially showed some interest in the latest developments but quickly withdrew the moment he heard it involved Shin Konoha. His figure faded into the shadows, his voice echoing faintly. Don't involve me in anything related to Shin Konoha. Jiraiya opened his mouth to respond but was left speechless by Danzo's abrupt retreat. Forget him, Hiruzen Sarutobi interjected, snatching the report from Jiraiya's hands. His brows furrowed as he schemed through the details. Don't bother with the two civilians, but Kakashi, Iruka, and Anko, why did they defect? Hiruzen muttered, his confusion mirroring Jiraiya's. The question lingered heavily in the air. What is Shin Konoha's ultimate goal? Meanwhile, in the land of whirlpools, Shin Konoha was bustling with activity. The residential district was taking shape, built by the hands of refugees and migrants. A commercial district was also being planned, with Ichiraku ramen as its centerpiece, a request from Naruto Uzumaki himself. The iconic ramen stand had quickly become a favorite among the residents, its rich flavors bringing joy to a war-torn population. Toki was overwhelmed by the demand, often joking about needing apprentices to keep up with the orders. The Ninja Academy, the largest structure in Shin Konoha, was a testament to Naruto's vision. Having grown up as an orphan himself, Naruto was deeply empathetic toward war orphans. He had established dormitories within the academy to provide them with shelter and stability, while many others were adopted by families who had lost their own children. But amidst the progress, a pressing issue emerged. What? We're out of money! Naruto exclaimed, stunned by Tsunade's report. Of course we are, Tsunade replied, her tone exasperated. The wealth left by the Uzumaki clan isn't infinite. Building a ninja village isn't as easy as you think. She glared at him. Residential districts, a commercial street, the largest ninja academy, training grounds, you even wanted to move Hokage Rock here. How did you think all this would be paid for? Naruto looked at the budget, his face growing grim as he saw the looming deficit. Shin Konoha's costs were astronomical, food for the refugees, materials for construction, and basic necessities for the growing population. Labor costs were minimized by the refugees' willingness to contribute, but it wasn't enough. Where did Konoha get its money from before? Naruto asked, genuinely curious. Konoha is funded by the Fire Country, Tsunade explained patiently. The village completes missions, but the majority of its finances come from the Fire Daimyo. She gave him a pointed look. We don't have a country supporting us, and we're not getting paid for missions. Naruto groaned, rubbing his temples. Then what are we supposed to do? Tsunade leaned forward with a sly smile, eager to see what her future leader would come up with. If you don't have it, then take it, Naruto muttered, half joking. What did you just say? Tsunade asked, her eyes narrowing. Naruto straightened up. I said, if you don't have it, then take it. Tsunade slapped his forehead. Are you insane? Robbing a country will get us annihilated. We're a ninja village, not a bandit camp. Naruto shook his head. I didn't mean robbing a country. I mean we can target other ninja villages, or even robbers. We can disguise ourselves as bandits, eliminate real bandits, and take their loot in the name of protecting the people. Tsunade blinked, processing the idea. Wait, are you serious? Naruto grinned. Completely. We won't target everyone, only those who deserve it. It's like eliminating threats while funding our village. Tsunade's expression softened. That's not a bad idea. She remembered her own desperate times, when she had taken money from thieves and corrupt individuals. Uzumaki Chito had once taught her to turn the tables on those who preyed on others. Fine, Tsunade said, nodding. But keep it controlled. We'll only go after bandits and criminals. Naruto's proposal was quickly approved by Shin Konoha's leadership. It wasn't just about money, it was about building goodwill with the people by eliminating dangerous elements. For Naruto, it was his first unanimously accepted proposal as the future Hokage, an event recorded in the minutes of the council meeting. From afar, Uzumaki Chito observed with a faint smile, saying nothing. He knew this was part of Naruto's growth. Just like Kushina, Chito mused. His way of thinking is so uniquely bold. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. For comment. Vote. Chapter 28. Naruto stood before Uzumaki Chito, feeling both excitement and apprehension. He thought his grandfather might criticize his plans or announce some major change, but Chito's response left him stunned. Now that you've made a decision, follow through with it, Chito said with a nod. You've grown a lot, Naruto. So, you agree? Naruto asked, momentarily speechless. He hadn't expected Chito to approve so easily. You've already discussed it with everyone, haven't you? Chito replied, sipping his tea. There are decisions you need to make on your own. You're the one who wants to become the leader, after all. It's time you learned what it means to lead. Naruto grinned triumphantly. I'm definitely going to be the Hokage of Shin Konoha. Chito chuckled softly. You've done well with Shin Konoha's planning, but tell me, have you decided where you'll start? Naruto nodded, his excitement returning. I've already thought about it. The Land of Lightning is one of the wealthiest nations among the 5 great powers. It's also crawling with bandits, so we'll start by cleaning them out. At the mention of the Land of Lightning, Chito's expression darkened ever so slightly, his hand pausing mid-sip. The Land of Lightning. Chito murmured, his voice carrying an edge. That belligerent country has always been trouble. Naruto noticed the shift in his grandfather's tone. Grandpa, you don't seem to like the Land of Lightning very much. I don't, Chito admitted, his smile turning icy. When you encounter their ninjas, don't hold back. Beat them to the ground. And if you can't handle them, come find me. The cold intensity in Chito's voice sent a shiver down Naruto's spine. Yes, I understand, Naruto replied quickly. As Naruto turned to leave, Chito's voice stopped him at the door. By the way, when you head to the Land of Lightning, take Neji with you. He'll understand what I mean. Naruto nodded. Got it. In the Land of Sound, Orochimaru's experimental base. The laboratory was bustling with activity. Researchers hurried about, carrying reagents and biological samples. Kabuto, handle this sample carefully. Phosphor, check the cell activity in the petri dish. Is the chakra stimulation experiment complete? Orochimaru's sharp voice echoed as he coordinated the work. Even Neji was involved, helping with tasks as he adjusted to his new surroundings. How are your new eyes? Are they functional? Orochimaru asked, observing Neji closely as the young Hyuga blinked repeatedly. They work, but there's some rejection. My body isn't fully compatible with them yet, Neji replied honestly. It's still not perfect, Orochimaru mused, shaking his head. Bear with it for now. After the routine tests, I'll replace them this afternoon. Neji nodded, trusting Orochimaru's expertise. Despite his initial doubts, Neji had come to respect Orochimaru's unparalleled skill in cellular research. Within 2 weeks, Orochimaru had successfully cultivated the first pair of Byakugan, though the compatibility remained an issue. Neji was confident the process would improve, allowing him to achieve the highest potential of the Byakugan. When Naruto and his group arrived, they found Neji in the middle of a procedure. Whoa, are you okay? Naruto asked, grimacing at the sight of Neji's partially reconstructed eyes. Don't worry, Tsunade said, placing a hand on Neji's shoulder and using her healing jutsu. Orochimaru may be creepy, but he takes his work seriously. If he'd avoided experimenting on living people, he wouldn't have been kicked out of Konoha. That's because the most accurate data comes from live subjects, Orochimaru interjected, clearly annoyed. Naruto smirked. We didn't come here just to argue. Neji, we're heading to the Land of Lightning. Want to come with us? Orochimaru's eyes narrowed, his slitted pupils focusing on the group. His gaze lingered on Mitarashi Anko at the back, and a thin smile spread across his lips. Ah, Anko, long time no see, Orochimaru said, his tone mockingly cordial before turning to Tsunade. And you cheating me by taking my students, hey? Tsunade crossed her arms. We're just here to take Neji for a while. He can decide for himself if he wants to come back. Orochimaru scoffed. The experiment isn't finished. He can't leave yet. Just for a short while, Tsunade countered. It's up to Neji. Neji glanced between the two before turning to Naruto. You're going to the Land of Lightning. Naruto nodded, extending a hand. Come with us. We could use your skills. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 0 comment. Vote. Chapter 29. The journey from Land of Sound to the Land of Lightning was short, conveniently along the planned route. Uzumaki Chito had suggested bringing Neji, knowing they could take him along without any detours. If we pass through the Land of Hot Water and the Land of the Moon, we'll reach the Land of Lightning, Kakashi said, glancing at the map. These two are small countries with little land area, Might Guy added, leaning in to study the map as well. Meanwhile, Naruto and Neji sparred, testing their recent improvements. Neji's gentle fist grazed Naruto's arm in a near-perfect strike. However, Naruto countered with a tail swipe in his 9-tails mode, sending Neji flying. Neji landed hard, clutching his stomach and looking pale. You're too ruthless, Naruto. This 9-tails mode is cheating, he said, groaning. Naruto grinned. You're not bad yourself. You held out with rotation for quite a while. If you'd had more chakra, you could have kept going. Their exchange drew smiles from the group. Despite their youth, Naruto and Neji's abilities were far beyond what anyone their age could typically achieve. Might Guy sighed theatrically. I'm officially leaving this group. I can't keep up with you geniuses. Naruto pulled Neji aside, lowering his voice. Grandpa said I should talk to you about the Land of Lightning. Does it have something to do with your family? Niji's expression hardened. The Land of Lightning is responsible for my father's death, he said calmly, though his clenched fists betrayed his anger. Naruto placed a reassuring hand on Niji's shoulder. Then we've got a score to settle. Don't worry this time, it's not just about cleaning up bandits. The group entered the Land of Lightning undercover, aware of the region's might. As one of the most powerful nations, its borders were heavily guarded. Refugees and rogue ninjas frequently entered the country, many turning to banditry. Naruto had obtained information about the distribution of bandit groups through the black market, pinpointing their locations on a map. Let's start with the nearest hill, Naruto suggested, pointing at the closest red dot. Time skip. In a small roadside noodle shop, a group of locals discussed recent events. Have you heard about the mysterious group clearing out bandit camps? One patron asked. It must be the work of Kumo ninjas, another replied. Their methods are too precise and professional to be anyone else. Whoever it is, they're doing us a favor. With fewer bandits, the caravans are safer. Unbeknownst to them, the mysterious group sat at the table beside them. These noodles are pretty good, Naruto said between slurps. Not as good as Uncle took his ramen, though. Focus, Naruto, Tsunade scolded. Have you reviewed what we've collected so far? Naruto blinked, then grinned. We've done great. 13 bandit groups down, and there should be plenty of treasure. Tsunade sighed. The combined wealth of those 13 groups is less than 800,000 ryo. That's nothing for a village like Shin Konoha. Niji nodded in agreement. 800,000 ryo would barely cover half a year's expenses for the Hyuga clan. For Shin Konoha, it's a drop in the ocean. I think it's a lot, Naruto said, scratching his head. Tsunade scoffed. I could lose that in an afternoon. There was a hint of pride in her voice, though it was clear she wasn't thrilled about her gambling habits. You're going to be the Hokage of Shin Konoha, she continued, glaring at Naruto. You need to understand the value of money. I get it, I get it. Naruto rubbed his head where Tsunade had swatted him. He pointed at a red dot on the map. This is our next target, the largest bandit group in the Land of Lightning. The group's reactions varied. Sounds boring, Kakashi said, not looking up from his book. I hope it'll at least give us a warm-up, Niji muttered skeptically. Might Guy crossed his arms. Not as exciting as a youthful frog-jumping contest. If the bandits had overheard this exchange, they might have coughed up blood. Unbeknownst to them, the weakest members of this group could rival the strongest jonin in most villages. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 3 comment. Vote. Chapter 30. The strongest bandit group in the Land of Lightning was a force to be reckoned with. Their deep roots in the territory made them untouchable, and their leader was said to rival a jonin in strength. Despite their criminal activities, they had long been tolerated. The group rarely caused major disturbances. Instead, they demanded tolls from caravans and even offered protection services in return. Over time, even the Land of Lightning's authorities turned a blind eye to their existence. That is, until this bandit group crossed paths with Naruto Uzumaki and his team. The leader of the bandits groaned, pinned to the ground by Naruto's 9 tails enhanced strength. His defiance was futile, even his upper jonin level skills crumbled before Naruto's sheer power. Who are you people? The leader spat, blood dribbling from his lips. We've done nothing to offend you. Naruto grinned. Oh, we're just here for your treasure. Niji, utilizing his Byakugan, scanned the area and quickly pinpointed the bandit's hidden stash. Found it, he announced, motioning toward a concealed spot. Within moments, the team unearthed a small chest, its lock no match for Niji's strength. He pried it open to reveal a modest collection of money and jewelry. That's it. Naruto muttered, his enthusiasm waning. Another 800,000 ryo. That's barely anything. Niji poured the contents onto the ground, revealing a folded piece of paper among the coins and gems. What's this? Niji unfolded it, his sharp eyes scanning the winding lines and red markings. It's a map, Naruto said, leaning in. His eyes widened with excitement. Wait, this might be a treasure map. The rest of the team gathered around, intrigued by Naruto's proclamation. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Where'd you get that idea? Let's find out. Naruto waved the map in front of the injured bandit leader. What's this supposed to be? The bandit hesitated, sweat beading on his forehead. Kakashi, unimpressed, drew his ninja blade and pointed it inches from the man's most vulnerable spot. Answer the question, he said flatly. The bandit broke instantly. It's a supply route map. It shows the paths used to deliver goods to Kumagakure. A supply route. Tsunade's interest was piqued, as was everyone else's. Naruto's mind raced. The bandits had unwittingly handed them a golden opportunity. What's the plan? Tsunade asked, turning to Naruto. Naruto thought for a moment, then glanced at Niji. This could be our chance to recover some real resources and maybe settle a score. Niji's fists clenched as he nodded. Thank you. Naruto waved him off. This isn't just about you. Shin Konoha's Ninja Academy could use the funding. Back in Shin Konoha, Uzumaki Chito sensed the events unfolding in the Land of Lightning. A faint smile tugged at his lips. They're bold, I'll give them that. Let's see how far they'll go. Tsunade and Kakashi took the lead in devising the operation, while Naruto observed and offered input. This batch of supplies is departing from the daimyo's mansion, Tsunade explained, pointing to an enlarged map. It'll follow this route to Kumagakure, stopping at 5 supply points along the way. Our target will be one of those points. She circled the third stop. The convoy will include ninjas from the daimyo's mansion as well as Kumagakure shinobi, Kakashi added. It's highly likely that Killer Bee will be part of the escort. Who's Killer Bee? Naruto asked. The Eight-Tails Jinchuriki, Kakashi replied. You'll likely need to hold him off if he shows up. Naruto grinned confidently. No problem. Leave him to me. What about extraction? Naruto asked. Tsunade nodded approvingly at his question. Good. You're thinking ahead. This supply point is closest to the coast. Once we secure the goods, we'll split into 2 groups, one will transport the supplies back to Shin Konoha by sea, and the rest will stay behind to delay the enemy. Might Guy was assigned to lead the transport team, while the others prepared to face Kumagakure's forces. Naruto insisted that Niji stay with the combat team, knowing the Hyuga prodigy wouldn't want to miss this opportunity for revenge. As the supply convoy neared the 3rd checkpoint, the Shin Konoha team waited in silence, hidden in the surrounding terrain. Lord Killer Bee, we're approaching the supply point, one of the Kumagakure ninjas reported. Yo, we're on the go, gotta make it flow. Serious faces, don't let it show. Killer Bee rapped, gesturing flamboyantly. Meanwhile, Naruto observed from the shadows, whispering to his team. Wait for it, almost there. The convoy reached the designated ambush zone, where dozens of explosive tags had been carefully planted. Now! With a deafening bang! The tags detonated, sending smoke and debris into the air. Though the damage was minimal, the chaos left the Kumagakure team disoriented. Go! Naruto shouted, leading the charge as the Shin Konoha team descended on their targets. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. To comment. Vote. Chapter 31. The Cloud Village ninjas scrambled to regroup, their disciplined teamwork stabilizing their ranks despite the chaos. However, this was precisely what Naruto wanted. Otama Raise Nan. A massive spiraling sphere of chakra formed in Naruto's hands, unstable and radiating a terrifying power. This technique, a refined version of the Raise Nan, packed an explosive punch. Hit by that, and you're as good as dead, Niji muttered, watching in awe as Naruto prepared the attack. The sheer chakra radiating from the technique sent shivers down his spine. It takes too long to prepare, Kakashi observed critically. But once perfected, it'll be a devastating weapon. Naruto hurled the Otama Raise Nan toward the clustered cloud ninjas. The glowing sphere hurtled forward like a runaway freight train, its speed and power overwhelming. The cloud ninjas froze, realizing they couldn't dodge in time. Yo! You think you can bully Uncle B? Killer Bee shouted, his voice cutting through the tension. Killer Bee charged forward, his 7 swords infused with lightning chakra. Each blade vibrated at high frequency, aimed at slicing through the spiraling mass. But the moment the Otama Raise Nan met Killer Bee's swords, it detonated with a massive explosion. The shockwave rippled through the battlefield, sending debris flying and kicking up a cloud of dust that blanketed the area. Even the Shin Konoha team, hidden at a distance, felt the impact. Cough. Might Guy spat out dirt and groaned. Naruto, maybe save that kind of power for special occasions. Niji, still wide-eyed, shook his head. Killer Bee actually tried to take that head on. That guy's insane. He's not dead, Tsunade said, her tone grim. There's still a strong life force coming from the blast zone. As the dust settled, a massive octopus-like figure emerged, its 8 tentacles writhing menacingly. The creature's dark red body bore countless suckers, and atop its bowl-like head sat a jagged, broken horn. 8 tails. Chiki, Kakashi muttered. Killer Bee, now fully transformed into his tailed beast form, glared at the Shin Konoha team. You've pushed Uncle B too far. Killer Bee growled, his voice a mix of human and beast. Now I'm mad for real. The sheer size and ferocity of the 8 tails sent a wave of unease through the group. You people are so weak, Killer Bee sneered, his massive tentacles smashing into the ground. You're not leaving here alive. As Killer Bee charged, the Shin Konoha team scattered, leaving Naruto to face him head-on. Time to show what I've got, Naruto muttered, reaching inward to the 9 tails. You'd better not let my chakra overwhelm your little mind, Kurama warned, though his voice carried a rare note of trust. 9 fiery tails erupted from Naruto's back, forming an ethereal fox-shaped aura. The Nine-Tails full form materialized around him, its massive size rivaling that of the Eight-Tails. "So you're the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki," Killer Bee said, his tone tinged with grudging respect. "Didn't think I'd run into you here, Uzumaki Naruto. What's Shin Konoha trying to pull, huh? Starting a war?" "We're not here for war," Naruto shot back. "But if you don't back down, I'll show you what the Nine-Tails can do." The two titanic beasts clashed, their immense power shaking the earth. Tentacles and tails locked together, neither side giving an inch. Meanwhile, Tsunade and the others made their move, heading toward the supply wagons. Most of the cloud escorts had been neutralized in Naruto's earlier attack. These supplies should be worth at least 50 million ryo, Niji estimated as he inspected the goods. "Then we're taking it," Tsunade declared. "Guy, you're in charge of getting it to the coast. Leave it to me." Might Guy reloaded the supplies onto their prepared wagons and began moving out. But Killer Bee, noticing the movement, roared in fury. "You're after our supplies? Over my dead body." Breaking free from Naruto's hold, Killer Bee lunged toward Guy and the fleeing wagons. "You're not going anywhere." Naruto intercepted Killer Bee mid-charge, their clash sending shockwaves across the battlefield. Killer Bee, now more furious than ever, spewed ink from one of Jiki's tentacles. The inky substance formed clones that swarmed Might Guy, immobilizing him in a sealing technique. Guy's body turned completely black, rendering him unable to move. "This isn't good," Kakashi muttered, recognizing the sealing jutsu. "Killer Bee's no ordinary Jinchuriki, he's much tougher than we anticipated." Naruto growled, glaring at Killer Bee. The plan to secure the supplies was falling apart, and it was all because of this single opponent. The Nine-Tails chakra surged through Naruto's body, enveloping him in a fiery red aura. His eyes glowed gold, and his hair stood wild as the tailed beast's power took hold. "Naruto, calm down," Tsunade shouted. "Don't let the Nine-Tails take over." But Naruto's focus was solely on Killer Bee. His human consciousness began to blur, and the beast within threatened to take control. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. To comment. Vote. Chapter 32. The Nine-Tails, teetering on the edge of a rampage, collided with the tailed beast form of Killer Bee. The sheer force of their clash shook the earth, ripping apart the terrain. The ground beneath them cracked and crumbled, leaving destruction in their wake. "Go." Naruto, still in his tailed beast form, forced out the word. Even with his consciousness fading, he knew his priority was to protect his comrades and ensure their escape. Tsunade and the others didn't hesitate. They quickly dealt with the remaining ink clones Killer Bee had created, clearing the way. Meanwhile, the two tailed beasts continued their fierce battle. Killer Bee's tentacles lashed out, attempting to strangle Naruto's Nine-Tails form. In response, Naruto unleashed a tailed beast bomb, firing it directly at the Eight-Tails. Killer Bee retaliated with his own tailed beast bomb, the two attacks colliding in a deafening explosion that sent shockwaves across the battlefield. "Move. Don't waste Naruto's efforts," Kakashi urged as he dragged the sealed Might Guy away. "I'm staying," Niji declared, his Byakugan active as he watched the battle. "I won't abandon Naruto." The sight of Niji standing his ground seemed to spark something in Naruto. Despite the weakening flames of his Nine-Tails chakra, he fought with renewed vigor, unleashing another tailed beast bomb at Killer Bee. The Eight-Tails roared in frustration, momentarily disoriented by the relentless onslaught. Seizing the moment, the Nine-Tails, still conscious of its host's bond with Uzumaki Chito, used its massive tails to scoop Naruto and fling him toward Niji. "Take this brat and leave," the Nine-Tails growled, its voice reverberating in Niji's mind. "If it weren't for his blood ties to Uzumaki Chito, I wouldn't bother saving him." Niji nodded solemnly. "Thank you. Without hesitation, he carried the unconscious Naruto on his back and retreated. Killer Bee, shaking off the effects of the battle, lifted his head and let out a roar of frustration. A signal flare shot into the sky, lighting up the darkened battlefield. In Kumagakure, Raikage noticed the flare almost immediately. "That's Killer Bee's location," he said grimly, already moving. "Something's gone wrong with the supply route. Prepare to mobilize." Halfway to the battlefield, he saw the flare's message and halted. "Supplies stolen." Raikage clenched his fists. "Lock down every port and border crossing. I want the thieves caught." He pushed forward, arriving at the scene of the battle to find Killer Bee sitting amidst the wreckage. The ground was scarred with massive craters, evidence of the devastating exchange of tailed beast bombs. "Bee, are you all right?" Raikage asked. Killer Bee nodded, though frustration was evident in his tone. "I'm fine, brother. But the supplies, they're gone." It was Shin Konoha. "I fought the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki." Raikage's eyes narrowed, his expression darkening. "They dared to challenge us? No one steals from Kumagakure and lives to tell the tale. We'll hunt them down and crush them." The news of Shin Konoha's daring raid spread rapidly across the ninja world. In Konoha, Jiraiya read the report and couldn't suppress a laugh. Shin Konoha really has a death wish, going after the land of lightning. Kumigakure won't let this slide. Beside him, Hiruzen Sarutobi smirked, pleased at the potential fallout. It's only a matter of time before Shin Konoha is destroyed. They've bitten off more than they can chew. Shimura Danzo, tending to his garden, merely shook his head. Don't underestimate Uzumaki Chito. With him involved, the land of lightning might find itself on the losing side. In a small town near the land of lightning's coast, the Shin Konoha team regrouped. The stolen supplies were hidden in a cave, its entrance destroyed to prevent discovery. The ports locked down, Kakashi reported after scouting the area. Cloud ninjas are patrolling every possible escape route. We'll be found soon, Might Guy added, glancing out the window. This entire town is under surveillance. Though he had broken free of the sealing technique using the 8 gates, Guy still bore signs of exhaustion. What about Naruto? Guy asked, looking at his unconscious comrade. He's still out, Tsunade replied, her expression tight with concern. His consciousness is trapped, likely due to the Nine-Tails chakra. Only he can pull himself out of it. But the talisman hasn't activated, she added, trying to reassure the group. That means he's not in mortal danger. Though worried, the team respected Naruto even more. His decision to stay behind and hold off Killer Bee had bought them enough time to secure the supplies. Everyone, restore your chakra, Tsunade commanded. We'll likely face another fight soon. In the depths of his unconscious mind, Naruto found himself in a realm of total darkness. A colossal nine-tailed fox loomed before him, its fiery orange fur glowing faintly. Its eyes, massive and luminous like twin suns, stared at him. So, you've finally come, the Nine-Tails growled. Naruto tilted his head, trying to steady his nerves. Are you, the Nine-Tails? The fox's lips curled into a sly grin, its fangs glinting in the dim light. Indeed, brat. And it's time we had a little chat. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 0 comment. Vote. Chapter 33. Boy, even though your consciousness has been infected by my chakra, you haven't gone completely insane yet. Should I say you've got potential or that Chito has really taken good care of you? The Nine-Tails shrank in size, assuming a form that allowed it to look at Naruto directly. Its voice carried both amusement and grudging respect. Naruto, still trying to piece together why he was in this strange space, began to understand through the Nine-Tails' words. This must have been another precautionary measure Uzumaki Chito had set up. How do I get back? Naruto asked, his tone edged with urgency. He could sense the danger looming outside, but his consciousness was trapped here with the Nine-Tails. You could use your talisman to summon Chito, the Nine-Tails suggested, a sly grin forming on its face. Naruto instinctively reached for the talisman jade at his waist, only to realize it had followed his soul into this space. Don't toy with him, Nine-Tails. The commanding voice of Uzumaki Chito echoed through the space as his figure materialized. With a single hand gesture, the mighty Nine-Tails was reduced to a childlike form, sulking in silence. Chito, I wasn't bullying him, the Nine-Tails huffed, turning its head away in defiance. Naruto looked between Chito and the now diminutive Nine-Tails, unsure of what to say. Ask your questions, Naruto, Chito said gently. This space is a safeguard I left in your soul. It's meant to protect you from genjutsu or techniques that could tamper with your memories. Naruto's eyes widened in understanding. Grandpa, I need to get out. My friends are in danger trying to protect me. Chito, observing the urgency in Naruto's expression, nodded but remained calm. What will you do when you're out? The question stopped Naruto short. He knew that Chito was right, his current strength might not be enough to turn the tide. But I can't just sit here while they risk their lives for me. Naruto shouted, his fists clenched. Chito smiled knowingly. You have a way out, but it's not up to me to help you this time. Not you. Naruto tilted his head in confusion. The Nine-Tails growled in irritation. Chito, you don't mean him, do you? Naruto's confusion deepened. Before he could ask further, the calm of the space shattered. It was as if unseen hands tore through the fabric of reality itself. A shadowy figure emerged, surrounded by a dark mist that obscured its features. When its gaze fell upon Uzumaki Chito and Naruto, it froze in place. Be quiet, Nine-Tails, Chito said, his tone carrying a quiet authority. Then he turned to the shadow. It's been a long time, Minato. The black mist dissipated, revealing the face of a man Naruto had seen in countless photographs and statues. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. Chito-sama, Minato said, bowing his head respectfully. Thank you for looking after Naruto. Naruto stared, his mouth agape. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Dad. Naruto whispered, his voice trembling. Minato smiled gently. Naruto, you've grown into a fine young man. I've always believed in you. He turned back to Chito. It seems your protections on Naruto's soul helped trigger my seal. I never expected to meet both of you here. Chito waved dismissively. I had a feeling you were still lingering. The Grim Reaper's presence during the resurrection gave it away. Minato's expression darkened slightly. Even so, my time here is limited. The seal tied my soul and half of the Nine Tails to the Grim Reaper. If the Reaper vanishes, I'll fade with it. The Nine Tails, now in its reduced form, bared its teeth at Minato. You locked me away and split me in two. It's your fault I'm not at full strength. Minato's smile didn't waver. It's good to see you're still as fiery as ever, Nine Tails. Chito chuckled, lightly tapping the Nine Tails on the head. Quiet, brat. Don't forget who's keeping you in check. Naruto, still overwhelmed, looked between his father and Chito. Dad, why now? Why are you here? Minato placed a reassuring hand on Naruto's shoulder. Because you need me, Naruto. You're stronger than you realize, but even the strongest need a guiding hand sometimes. Chito stepped back, his role in this reunion complete. I'll leave you two to talk. Nine Tails, come with me. The fox grumbled but followed Chito as they exited the space. In the real world, Neji and Might Guy were watching over Naruto when Chito suddenly appeared, accompanied by the small Nine Tails. Both of them immediately knelt. Lord Chito, they greeted respectfully. Chito nodded in acknowledgement, but his arrival didn't go unnoticed. The commotion caused by the Nine Tails drew the attention of the Thunder Country's search team. They're here. Neji warned, activating his Byakugan. The enemy was closing in, and with Naruto still unconscious, the team had little time to act. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. To comment. Vote. Chapter 34. Might Guy and Neji instinctively began to prepare for a retreat when they heard the approaching Cloud Hidden Village search team. But then it hit them, why were they running when Uzumaki Chito was right there? It wasn't them who should be running, it was everyone else. Quick, surround them. Don't let them escape, a cloud ninja shouted, as signal fireworks lit up the sky. Uzumaki Chito glanced at the encroaching enemies, his expression one of disdain. He stepped forward lightly. Boom. Though it was merely a soft step, the sound echoed like thunder in the hearts of every ninja present. Their eyes widened in horror as their hearts gave out simultaneously, dropping them lifeless to the ground. Neji and Might Guy froze in shock, their jaws nearly hitting the floor. That's it. He didn't even use a technique, Neji muttered, his Byakugan showing no hand signs or chakra disturbance from Chito. Might Guy nodded slowly. I've seen incredible strength before, but Lord Chito, he's something beyond comprehension. Every time I witness him, I feel like I've touched a new limit of what is possible. Why are you standing around? Let's go, Uzumaki Chito called casually, walking forward as if nothing had happened. Might Guy blinked before saying, Lord Chito, you're heading in the wrong direction. No, Chito replied. Kakashi is that way. He's in trouble. Indeed, Uzumaki Chito's perception extended far. He could sense Kakashi desperately evading the fourth Raikage. Blood trickled from Kakashi's mouth as he struggled to maintain his speed and avoid the Raikage's relentless pursuit. Meanwhile, Killer Bee followed the unmistakable scent of the Nine Tails. As one-tailed beast could sense another, he quickly found himself face to face with Chito, Might Guy, Neji, and the unconscious Naruto. Ha 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 ha. Uncle Bee is here, baby. Found you, fox brat. Killer Bee rapped, his octopus-like tentacles twitching with anticipation. Might Guy instinctively stepped in front of Naruto, while Neji activated his Byakugan. Killer Bee's eyes gleamed when he spotted Naruto's unconscious form. Oh, what's this? One more person. Must be his buddy. All right, hand him over, nice and easy. Killer Bee declared, pointing at Naruto. Uzumaki Chito gave Killer Bee a flat look. You're the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki. Before Killer Bee could respond, the voice of the Eight-Tails rang in his head. Bee, stop. Don't provoke this man. Why not? He's just some random guy, Killer Bee replied, confused. That random guy is Uzumaki Chito. The Eight-Tails hissed, fear evident in its voice. He's stronger than any human or tailed beast you'll ever meet. But Killer Bee, as stubborn as ever, scoffed. You're kidding me. He doesn't even look tough. Let's see what he's got. Uzumaki Chito sighed. You tailed beasts really don't learn, do you? Bee, please, the Eight-Tails began, but it was too late. Killer Bee fully activated his tailed beast transformation, his body enveloped by the Eight-Tails chakra as his tentacles lashed toward Chito with devastating force. 5 moves, Might Guy whispered. 3, Neji countered confidently. 1. The small Nine Tails chimed in smugly, wagging its tail. The bull is nowhere near my level, and Chito makes me look weak. Killer Bee, irritated by their chatter, bellowed, mind your own business, and charged at Chito with full force. With a simple step forward, Chito's figure blurred. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Killer Bee, his palm resting lightly on the bull's head. When Killer Bee stammered, his tailed beast form trembling under Chito's touch. The Eight-Tails could only groan in dismay. This is why I told you to stop. Under Chito's hand, Killer Bee's tailed beast chakra dissipated instantly. The towering Eight-Tails form shrank rapidly until Killer Bee was forced out of the transformation entirely. Before Killer Bee could process what was happening, Chito reached into his chest. With seemingly no effort, he pulled out the Eight-Tails itself. The once mighty Jayaki was now shrunken, reduced to the size of a small child. Its 8 tentacles flailed helplessly as Chito held it up like a misbehaving pet. The 9 tails laughed gleefully from the sidelines. Ah ha 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 ha. Serves you right, you dumb bull. Killer Bee, wide-eyed, could only gape at the sight of his partner reduced to such a state. Yo, Jayaki, you're looking pretty cute right now. The 8 tails snarled, shut up, you fool. Worry about yourself. Killer Bee snapped back to attention and glared at Chito. Let me go. When my brother gets here, you're dead. He's the Raikage, and he's way stronger than me. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. For comment. Vote. Chapter 35. Oh, is that so? Uzumaki Chito's tone was calm, almost amused. It was the first time he'd seen someone remain so bold after being caught red-handed. The 8 tails groaned inwardly. This idiot, he has no idea who he's dealing with. The 9 tails chimed in sarcastically. It seems your choice of host isn't much better, hey? Nearby, Might Guy and Niji Hyuga exchanged a silent glance, as if lighting a metaphorical stick of incense for Killer Bee. In their hearts, they admired his bravery or foolishness. I respect you for being brave, Niji thought silently. With a casual snap of his fingers, Uzumaki Chito rendered Killer Bee unable to speak. His actions were effortless, almost dismissive. Despite Killer Bee's words, he wasn't interested in killing him. He was far too valuable alive. As a prisoner of war, Killer Bee, the host of the 8 tails, could be exchanged for an extraordinary amount of supplies. The real question was how to negotiate for his worth. Having subdued Killer Bee, Uzumaki Chito turned his attention back to Naruto. The situation surrounding him had stabilized significantly. Inside Naruto's consciousness, the 9 tails growled in frustration as it felt a powerful force pulling it back into its sealed cage. It was Minato Namikaze, Naruto's father, strengthening the 8 trigram seal once more, ensuring Naruto wouldn't accidentally unleash the beast or fall prey to its influence again. Minato Namikaze, you fool, the 9 tails grumbled, must you always go to such lengths? Just as it had begun to enjoy its brief freedom, the 9 tails was forcefully drawn back into Naruto's subconscious. Naruto returned to full consciousness, his mind sharper and more composed than before. The ordeal seemed to have left him stronger. He realized he could now control up to 5 tails of the 9 tails' power. Grandpa, Naruto asked, turning to Uzumaki Chito with hopeful eyes, can my dad really come back someday? As an unparalleled force in the ninja world, Uzumaki Chito was one of the few who could answer such a question with authority. After all, he had once resurrected the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Yes, but not yet, Uzumaki Chito replied. Naruto's eyes sparkled with determination. Knowing it was possible gave him a newfound sense of hope. With Killer Bee subdued, the group set out to track Kakashi's whereabouts. Through Uzumaki Chito's perceptive abilities, they learned that Kakashi was in a dire situation, locked in a fierce battle with the 4th Raikage. Using his Sharingan, Kakashi had momentarily placed the Raikage under an illusion and fled, but his injuries left him vulnerable. It wasn't long before the Raikage caught up with him. Kakashi was badly wounded, his body barely able to evade the Raikage's relentless attacks. Blood gushed from a deep wound, his vision blurring as his strength waned. The 4th Raikage loomed over him, his expression cold and merciless. He raised his hand for another devastating blow, intent on finishing Kakashi off. To him, a traitor to Konoha was hardly worth keeping alive. Kakashi closed his eyes, preparing for the inevitable. But the pain never came. When he opened his eyes, he saw a pale, jade-like hand blocking the Raikage's attack. The furious chakra infused with lightning dissipated into nothingness, completely neutralized by Uzumaki Chito's power. The Raikage recoiled, quickly retreating to create distance. His normally unshakable composure faltered as he recognized him. The tales of Uzumaki Chito, a figure who had once nearly destroyed Kumagakuer, were no mere legends. He was the nightmare of Cloud Village's history, a force so fearsome that even the first Hokage had intervened to spare their destruction. Though skeptical of those old stories, the Raikage could no longer deny his overwhelming presence. I want him dead, the Raikage growled, sneering as he glared at Uzumaki Chito. You can't save him. His confidence came from the damage he'd inflicted. Kakashi's body had been ravaged by the Raikage's lightning release. Even if he were saved, the injuries would likely leave him crippled. You're awfully confident for someone so weak, Uzumaki Chito said, shaking his head. Even your predecessors knew better than to speak to me like that. His words carried a weight that made the Raikage grit his teeth in frustration. Yet his pride would not let him back down. My strength surpasses even the first Hokage's. What could an old relic like you possibly do? Chito's eyes narrowed. The arrogance of today's youth never ceases to amaze me, he muttered. With a cold snort, he extended his hand, channeling pale green chakra into Kakashi's battered body. The Raikage watched in disbelief as Kakashi's wounds began to heal at an incredible rate. The injuries inflicted by his lightning release damage so severe it destroyed the very chakra point of the body vanished before his eyes. How is this possible? He stammered. Ignoring the Raikage's shock, Uzumaki Chito turned to him. Let me show you where your so-called strength truly stands. Raising his hand, he summoned an immense surge of chakra, drawing power from the very elements around him. The skies darkened, heavy clouds swirling as thunder roared and lightning crackled across the heavens. The sheer force of her technique shook the earth beneath their feet. You like lightning? How fortunate. So do I, he said with a chilling smile. With a wave of his hand, a massive bolt of lightning struck down from the storm, targeting the Raikage. He barely rolled out of the way in time, only to find himself under a relentless barrage of strikes. Each bolt was more powerful than the last, tearing apart the ground and leaving the Raikage no room to escape. He could do nothing but endure the assault, his once proud figure reduced to a shadow of its former self. When the storm finally subsided, the Raikage's scorched, motionless form lay amid the smoldering ruins. Though not dead, he was gravely injured, his charred skin a testament to Uzumaki Chito's overwhelming might. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. For comment. Vote. Chapter 36. Naruto and the others, lagging slightly behind, finally caught up. What they saw shocked them. The fourth Raikage lay motionless, his body scorched from the relentless lightning strikes. It was unclear how many breaths he had left. In the future, stay away from loudmouths like this, Uzumaki Chito said, his voice laced with scorn. When they get struck by lightning, you might get caught in the crossfire. As if to emphasize his point, he casually summoned another thunderbolt, which struck the Raikage's prone body with a deafening crack. Sizzle. Electricity danced and crackled over the fourth Raikage's charred form. His body twitched involuntarily as residual lightning coursed through him. Killer B, watching the scene unfold, felt a chill run down his spine. For as long as he could remember, his older brother had been his pillar of strength, the strongest person he knew. Yet, in front of Uzumaki Chito, the Raikage was utterly powerless. For the first time, Killer B felt genuine fear. He realized that the man before him wielded a power that transcended anything he had ever known. He could command the heavens with a mere gesture, annihilating anyone or anything in his path. Take the fourth Raikage with you, Uzumaki Chito instructed dismissively. I'll handle it, Niji Hyuga volunteered, stepping forward without hesitation. The smell of grilled meat is getting a bit intense, Might Guy quipped, sniffing the air with mock seriousness. The fourth Raikage's consciousness had already slipped into a haze. Even his formidable physique couldn't endure the repeated onslaught of Uzumaki Chito's heavenly thunder. His once proud body now lay limp, helpless against the overwhelming power of nature. With the Raikage and Killer B incapacitated, the remaining forces of the Land of Thunder posed little threat. The battle was effectively over. Meanwhile, Uzumaki Chito's clone, having exhausted its energy, began to dissipate like mist into the wind. Niji, follow your heart, the clone said softly before vanishing completely. Niji's eyes reddened with emotion. He knelt down, bowing deeply to the fading figure, his gratitude unspoken but palpable. With the defeat of the fourth Raikage and Killer B, the group's mission in the Land of Thunder became far easier. Naruto and the others found Tsunade openly. There was no need for stealth now. When Tsunade saw the unconscious forms of the Raikage and Killer B, she exhaled in relief. The captives were a valuable bargaining chip. We'll head back to Shin Konoha immediately, Tsunade announced, her mind already calculating how to leverage this opportunity. Both the Raikage and Killer B were critical assets to the Land of Thunder, and their capture would undoubtedly force Cloud Village to negotiate. The Land of Lightning was known for its military might and economic strength, with Cloud Village standing as one of the most formidable ninja villages. However, even the mighty Raikage had fallen in the face of Uzumaki Chito's unparalleled power. Despite the Raikage's defeat, Tsunade knew that other nations wouldn't sit idly by. The political ripple effects of this battle would be significant. For now, though, she focused on the immediate task, ensuring the materials and captives reached Shin Konoha safely. Might Guy and Kakashi, sharing Tsunade's perspective, agreed to escort the supplies back. The resources they had seized from the Land of Thunder were substantial, enough to sustain Shin Konoha's growth for months. These materials originally allocated for Village were now repurposed to build the Shin Konoha. The sheer scale of the supplies allowed for an unprecedented level of luxury in the construction process. While the group prepared to leave, Niji's expression grew somber. Lowering his head, he spoke in a quiet but firm voice. I may not be able to return with everyone. Why not? Tsunade asked, her tone tinged with curiosity. Do you plan to continue experimenting? No, Niji replied. It's not that. There's something I need to take care of in the land of lightning. Tsunade studied his face for a moment, understanding dawning on her. Kakashi and Might Guy exchanged knowing looks. They remembered the incident that had nearly torn the Hyuga clan apart years ago. Though it had ended in a farce, the scars it left were still fresh for those involved. Seeing Niji's resolve, even a fool could guess his intentions. Are you sure you want to act alone? Tsunade asked, her concern evident. Naruto stepped forward, his voice steady. I'll go with Niji. You're the future Hokage of Shin Konoha, Tsunade reminded him gently. And Niji is my friend, Naruto said with a grin. His words carried warmth and sincerity, earning a grateful glance from Niji. In the end, Kakashi and Might Guy volunteered to escort the supplies and captives back to Shin Konoha. Originally, Tsunade planned to join them, but Naruto insisted otherwise. He was worried she might squander their newfound wealth. After all, she was infamous for losing vast sums of money in a single afternoon. Those funds are for rebuilding Shin Konoha, Naruto muttered under his breath, making his point clear. As the group parted ways, Naruto, Niji, and Tsunade set off toward the daimyo's mansion in the land of lightning. Niji, Naruto began as they moved swiftly through the dense forest, do you remember who came to Konoha back then? Niji shook his head. I only know it was the escort team of the daimyo of the land of thunder. Tsunade chimed in, the current daimyo of the land of lightning took office 3 years ago. The previous daimyo has already passed away, so it's possible the original escort team has been disbanded. Naruto shrugged. Doesn't matter. We'll find the current daimyo and get the answers we need. Tsunade frowned, lightly smacking Naruto on the head. Do you realize this could provoke a war between the land of thunder and the land of fire? Naruto grinned, unfazed. What does that have to do with Shin Konoha? Tsunade blinked, momentarily taken aback. She realized Naruto was right. Shin Konoha was no longer tied to the old alliances and conflicts of the land of fire. If the land of thunder decided to retaliate, they'd find Shin Konoha far from defenseless. The three of them shared a knowing smile. With Uzumaki Chito protecting Shin Konoha, any threat from the land of thunder would need careful reconsideration. The daimyo's mansion loomed ahead, a stark contrast to the rugged mountains and dense forests surrounding it. While the daimyo of the land of lightning represented the country externally, true power resided in Cloud Village. Yet, the current daimyo had ambitions of his own, ones that had once brought tragedy to the Hyuga clan. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 0 comment. Vote. Chapter 37. Uzumaki Chito's disdain for the land of lightning was deeply rooted in history. His resentment wasn't unfounded. The country had caused irreparable damage time and again. The loss of Tobirama Senju, the second Hokage, during the alliance meeting with the second Raikage, still lingered as a painful memory. Both leaders had been ambushed and killed by the infamous Gold and Silver brothers. That incident had marked the beginning of Konoha's gradual decline, further exacerbated during Hiruzen Sarutobi's reign. The shinobi of the land of lightning carried an innate arrogance, born of their strength. Yet their hubris masked an underlying fragility, their relatively small population compared to other great nations. Their numbers couldn't sustain prolonged conflict, which was the only reason they hadn't launched another war despite their military and economic might. The daimyo's mansion of the land of lightning was a grand display of wealth and power, unmatched in opulence by the mansions of other nations. This extravagant symbol of national pride only fueled the arrogance of the country's people. But today, the grandeur of the daimyo's mansion faced an unexpected challenge. 3 uninvited guests arrived at the gates. This is a restricted area. Leave immediately, barked one of the guards, glaring at the trio. When they made no move to comply, he stepped forward, raising his voice. Did you hear me? Leave, or face the consequences. Naruto turned to Niji, his blue eyes calm yet piercing. Are we going in directly, or do you want to reconsider? Niji's lips curved into a small, determined smile. We're going in. I've been preparing for this moment for years. With that, he stepped forward, his Byakugan activating. The veins around his eyes bulged, giving him an intimidating presence. His gaze fixed on the mansion with icy determination, sending chills through the guards. This was Niji's battle, his revenge. Naruto and Tsunade followed closely behind, ready to support him if necessary, but they would let Niji take the lead. Stop. You can't just barge in here, shouted the guards. Yet, despite their bravado, their legs trembled, and they instinctively began to step back. The overwhelming aura of strength emanating from the trio was suffocating. Realizing they were outmatched, one guard turned and bolted toward the mansion, shouting over his shoulder, hold them off. I'll warn the daimyo. More guards swarmed to intercept Niji, but they were no match for him. One by one, they were effortlessly knocked aside, as though they were no more than leaves caught in a storm. 8 trigrams palm rotation. Niji shouted, unleashing a defensive whirl of chakra that sent the guards flying in all directions. Though he refrained from using lethal force, his strikes left them incapacitated, unable to stand. Niji's mind burned with anger and determination. The events of the past were still fresh in his memory: his father's sacrifice, the injustice done to the Hyuga clan, all orchestrated by the daimyo of the Land of Lightning. Though years had passed, the pain and bitterness remained. Naruto and Tsunade watched in silence as Niji fought his way through, allowing him to vent his anger. Together, the three of them strode into the mansion without resistance, their presence radiating authority. The daimyo, having already been alerted, stepped out to meet them. His expression was cold, his disdain for the intruders evident. It had been years since anyone dared trespass on his domain. As the symbolic leader of the Land of Lightning, the daimyo's mansion was heavily guarded, not just by his own escort team but also by the elite ninjas of Kumagakure. The intrusion was nothing short of an affront to his authority. Arrest them all, the daimyo barked, his voice filled with contempt. Interrogate them thoroughly. If they're from some insignificant village, wipe it off the map. His arrogant tone didn't waver, though his words betrayed a growing frustration. As the daimyo, he had wealth and status, but true power resided in Cloud Village. He had long been overshadowed by the Raikage and the military strength of the village. Still, the daimyo clung to the belief that his escort team, made up of highly trained chunin and led by a jonin, was a formidable force. But as his guards rushed to engage Niji, it became painfully clear how misplaced his confidence was. Niji's gentle fist struck with precision, channeling chakra into his enemies' bodies and wreaking havoc on their internal systems. None of the guards stood a chance. One by one, they crumpled to the ground, unable to move. The captain of the escort team finally stepped forward, his hand resting on the hilt of his blade. The weapon gleamed with a deadly poison, ready to end the fight in one strike. Niji stood his ground, his Byakugan glowing as his vision expanded. The meridians around his eyes pulsed with chakra, enhancing his already formidable combat abilities. It's a Byakugan, the daimyo exclaimed, his eyes lighting up with greed. To him, the white eyes of the Hyuga clan represented untold power. For generations, the Land of Lightning had sought to harness such abilities for themselves. The previous daimyo had tried and failed to obtain the Byakugan, but now, one was standing right before him. Capture him, the daimyo ordered, his excitement barely contained. I want those eyes. The captain of the escort team grinned, already imagining how the Byakugan would enhance his own power if transplanted. He drew his blade, the air between him and Niji crackling with tension. Niji sneered, his fists tightening. This was the arrogance of the Land of Lightning, greedy, power-hungry, and shameless in their pursuit of strength. The captain lunged, his blade flashing in the light. Niji countered with precise movements, dodging each strike with fluid grace. His soft fist struck back, forcing the captain to retreat. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed from outside. Reinforcements arrived, armed with bows and arrows tipped with poison. The daimyo had already retreated to a secure location, leaving his forces to handle the intruders. Fire, the captain commanded, stepping back to allow the archers to take aim. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. To comment. Vote. Chapter 38. Arrows rained down like a storm, their sharp tips glinting ominously as they descended upon the trio. Niji Hyuga reacted instantly, spinning gracefully as he activated his 8 trigrams palm rotation. The powerful chakra shield deflected the incoming arrows, sending them scattering harmlessly to the ground. Naruto stood firm, his body enveloped in the fiery red chakra of the 9 tails. The arrows bounced off his defense with a metallic clang. Unable to penetrate. Tsunade, ever practical, relied on her monstrous strength to smash through the arrows mid-flight. Any damage to the surroundings was immediately repaired with a single touch, her chakra restoring the broken stonework with ease. When the rain of arrows ceased, the three stood unscathed amidst the debris. The captain of the daimyo's escort team smirked. He had anticipated that such an attack wouldn't faze the trio. The arrows were merely a distraction. As soon as the barrage ended, he launched his own assault. Swish! His ninja blade moved with lightning speed, nearly invisible even in broad daylight. Niji's Byakugan caught the faintest trace of movement, and yet the blade still grazed his arm. A sharp pain followed as his flesh and clothing were sliced open, and a dark green toxin seeped into the wound. The venom spread quickly, making Niji's head spin. It felt as though countless tailed beasts were rampaging inside his mind. The captain of the escort team laughed heartily. You're poisoned now. There's no escape. Your Byakugan will become the most valuable treasure of the Land of Lightning. He eyed Niji with a predatory grin, convinced that he had neutralized the strongest member of the trio. In his mind, Niji's white eyes signified noble lineage and unparalleled power, marking him as the leader of the group. But Niji's expression remained calm, almost mocking. You want to take my Byakugan, he said coldly. Let's see if you are worthy. With a sudden burst of energy, Niji struck forward. His fist, infused with chakra, collided with the captain's abdomen. Gentle fist technique. Niji poured all his remaining chakra into the strike, sending it coursing through the captain's body. The devastating energy disrupted the captain's chakra network, creating a violent counterflow that ravaged his internal systems. The captain's eyes widened in shock, but he couldn't finish his sentence. His body seized up as his blood surged uncontrollably. Moments later, he collapsed lifelessly to the ground. The remaining guards froze in terror, their courage shattered. But the daimyo of the Land of Lightning, undeterred by the sight of his fallen captain, barked his orders. Don't retreat. All of you, charge forward. He's poisoned and barely standing. Take him down and bring me his eyes. The guards hesitated but ultimately obeyed, driven by fear and greed. Slowly, they advanced on Niji, who was kneeling, his strength visibly waning. In their arrogance, they ignored Tsunade and Naruto, dismissing them as mere bystanders. The daimyo, in particular, assumed they were no more than bodyguards or attendants. Well, it seems I've been underestimated, Tsunade said with a sigh, cracking her knuckles. Naruto's eyes narrowed as he observed the daimyo's greed. Is the allure of the bloodline limit really worth all this? You don't understand, Tsunade replied, her tone heavy with bitterness. A ninja with a bloodline limit will always be more powerful than one without it. That truth breeds greed and disaster. She refrained from saying the rest. Bloodline limits often brought destruction to entire ninja clans. The greed of others had led to countless tragedies in the past. Tsunade knelt beside Niji, her hands glowing with green chakra as she began to heal him. Her expertise in medical ninjutsu was unparalleled, even the most lethal toxins were no match for her skill. She had survived the poisons of Hanzo the salamander and the deadly toxins of the Sand Village during the Third Great Ninja War. Compared to those challenges, the poison of the Land of Thunder was almost insulting in its simplicity. As Niji's breathing steadied and his complexion improved, the daimyo's confidence wavered. His plan to capture Niji and extract his white eyes was crumbling before his very eyes. Kill them all. Don't let him recover, he shouted, his voice tinged with desperation. Naruto's gaze darkened as he watched the scene unfold. The daimyo's unrelenting greed disgusted him. To treat Niji, his comrade and friend, as nothing more than a resource to be exploited was unforgivable. The red chakra of the 9 tails flared around Naruto, and 5 tails materialized behind him, radiating a terrifying killing intent. You dare treat my comrade like livestock? Naruto growled, his voice low and menacing. You don't deserve to live. With blinding speed, Naruto vanished and reappeared among the guards. Each movement was a deadly blur, and with every attack, another life was snuffed out. Whether they were Chunin or Jonin, it made no difference. Naruto's strikes were merciless and lethal. He created multiple shadow clones, their numbers overwhelming the guards. Together, they unleashed Rasenans and tore through the opposition with precision and fury. The once proud defenders of the daimyo's mansion fell like leaves in a storm, their blood staining the ground. By the time the carnage ended, only one person remained standing, the daimyo of the Land of Thunder. He trembled uncontrollably, his earlier arrogance replaced with sheer terror. Naruto approached him slowly, a cold smile on his face. Are you afraid of death now? He asked softly. Though his tone was gentle, the words struck the daimyo like thunder. His knees buckled, and he collapsed to the ground, unable to respond. I won't kill you, Naruto continued. Your fate isn't mine to decide. He turned and walked back to Niji's side, leaving the daimyo to face his fear. Thanks to Tsunade's healing, Niji had recovered enough to stand. He nodded gratefully to Naruto before stepping toward the daimyo. You wanted my Byakugan, Niji said calmly, his voice devoid of emotion. The last daimyo of the Land of Lightning wanted them too. Now I'm here. Take them if you can. The daimyo recoiled, his body shaking uncontrollably under Niji's gaze. The weight of Niji's presence was too much to bear. Overwhelmed, the daimyo collapsed fully, his heart giving out under the immense pressure. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 0 comment. Vote. Chapter 39. The daimyo of the Land of Lightning wailed like a madman, his pride shattered. His disheveled appearance was a far cry from the grandeur of his status. If he were thrown into the streets, he would be mistaken for a deranged beggar. Pathetic, Niji sneered, turning away in disgust. Just looking at him feels like an insult. You're not going to kill him? Tsunade asked, raising an eyebrow. She thought Niji was being unusually merciful. Leaving him alive is far more cruel, Niji replied with a faint smile, his cold demeanor softening slightly as he glanced at Tsunade. Thank you, Lady Tsunade. It's nothing, Tsunade said with a nod. What transpired in the daimyo's mansion remained unknown to the outside world, as no one dared to investigate. The common people of the Land of Lightning continued to regard the daimyo's mansion with fear and reverence, unaware of the events that had just unfolded within its walls. Meanwhile, Niji and the others had retreated to a small room within the mansion, where they sifted through the records left behind by the previous daimyo. They were searching for evidence, specifically the list of guards who had escorted the daimyo to Konoha during the infamous incident involving Niji's father. Found it, Tsunade announced, placing a worn booklet on the table. Inside was a roster of the escort team that had traveled to Konoha. Niji carefully tore out the page, clutching it tightly in his hand. These were the names of his father's killers, the ones who had played a role in his family's suffering. His grip on the paper was firm, his resolve unwavering. Far away, in the land of whirlpools, Uzumaki Chito sensed the memories of his clone and let out a soft sigh. Niji, if hatred blinds your eyes, then let it consume you until you've extinguished it. Only then can the skies clear. Turning his attention back to Shin Konoha, Uzumaki Chito's sharp senses picked up an unusual presence. A group of ninjas had infiltrated the village under the guise of civilians. These intruders had used genjutsu to manipulate villagers into planting explosive tags throughout the newly constructed buildings. Among their targets was the Ninja Academy, the largest and most grandiose structure in Shin Konoha. The academy's construction had already strained the village's finances, relying on interest-free loans from the Land of Waves and the support of businessmen, who sought to align himself with the rising power of Shin Konoha. The intruders, oblivious to Chito's awareness, worked methodically. They placed the explosive tags in key structural points of the academy, intending to cause maximum damage. Hidden in the shadows, Uzumaki Chito observed their actions with a faint smirk. Small fish. Let's see if the big ones take the bait. The group of intruders gathered in a secluded spot, unaware of the figure silently watching them. This mission was almost too easy, one of them said smugly. We should have brought more explosive tags. These barely feel like enough. The orders were clear, another replied. Just cause chaos. The rest isn't our problem. Fine, let's detonate the charges and get out of here. But before they could act, they felt an ominous presence behind them. Turning slowly, their eyes widened in terror. A figure in white kimono hovered above them, exuding an aura of unimaginable power. It was Uzumaki Chito. The moment they met his gaze, their bodies froze, paralyzed by the sheer weight of his chakra. Any thoughts of resistance vanished as fear consumed them. From Konoha, are you? Chito asked with a serene smile, his tone soft but laced with menace. One of the ninjas stammered, I. Which village sent you? And what's your purpose here in Shin Konoha? He continued, his words as sharp as blades. We're wandering ninjas, one of them blurted out. We just wanted to join Shin Konoha. Wanted to join. Chito's smile widened. Did you bring a gift? A gift. The ninja's voice quivered. We didn't know a gift was required. Like, perhaps, explosive tags. Chito hinted, his smile unchanging. Realizing their cover was blown, the intruders' faces paled. They knew there was no escape. Far off the coast, Sarutobi Hiruzen stood on a ship, his gaze fixed on Shin Konoha in the distance. The elderly former Hokage remained well out of Uzumaki Chito's sensory range, cautious not to draw his attention. Why hasn't it exploded yet? Sarutobi muttered impatiently. Did they fail? Beside him, Danzo Shimura reclined leisurely, holding a fishing rod as he calmly cast his line into the sea. Hiruzen, why bother? Even if they succeed, such petty destruction won't harm the foundation of Shin Konoha. As long as that man lives, the village will endure. Sarutobi glared at him. I'm not trying to destroy the village. I just want to sow discord and shake their confidence. The villagers haven't fully embraced Shin Konoha yet. Panic could destabilize everything. Danzo shrugged, reeling in a fish. You're clinging to a fantasy, old friend. The ripples in the water mirrored the unease in Sarutobi's heart. Moments later, a flash of fire erupted in the distance, followed by another and another. Sarutobi's face lit up with satisfaction. Ha ha ha. Uzumaki Chito, you're not untouchable after all. Danzo, however, frowned. Something about the situation felt off. Are you sure it's that simple? He murmured, his eyes narrowing as he watched the distant flames. Within Shin Konoha, villagers gathered near the academy, cheering loudly. The detonations had been expertly contained, turning what could have been a tragedy into a spectacle. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. 5 comment. Vote. Chapter 40. The planning area of Shin Konoha was a challenging landscape. Much of the land was covered with massive rocks, making it impossible to lay a foundation. However, when struck by the ninjas' explosive tags, even the strongest mountains fractured and crumbled. Despite the earlier intrusion, life in Shin Konoha returned to normal. Tenten and the other ninjas who had been involved in the mission were warmly welcomed by the villagers. Tenten, I didn't expect to see you here. Toki, the owner of Ichiraku Ramen, greeted her with a smile. How do you like it here? The people are friendly, aren't they? Tenten's eyes widened in surprise. Uncle Toki, you're here too. She had been shocked to find Ichiraku Ramen closed in Konoha, but discovering it thriving in Shin Konoha brought a sense of familiarity and comfort. How about it? Toki asked. Are you staying in Shin Konoha, or are you going back to Konoha as a trader? The question hung in the air as Tenten and the others exchanged glances. Their hesitation was palpable. Uzumaki Chito, observing the scene from a distance, stepped forward, his voice calm yet firm. The ship that could have taken you back to Konoha has already left. You've been abandoned, whether you realize it or not. The weight of his words sank in. For the first time, the ninjas began to see the truth: they hadn't betrayed Konoha. Konoha had betrayed them. The missions they were sent on had been nothing but a ploy, and their survival had never been part of the plan. Tenten straightened her back, her expression resolute. I'm joining Shin Konoha, she declared. But I'll need a shop. The other ninjas followed suit, each pledging their loyalty to Shin Konoha. With their decision made, a sense of relief washed over them. Tenten in particular, stood out. Known for her expertise in sealing techniques in her role as a weapons dealer, she would become an invaluable asset to Shin Konoha. Her knowledge and resources made her the perfect addition to the village's growing infrastructure. The task of blasting through the indestructible rocks became significantly easier with her help. Using her scrolls and sealing jutsu, Tenten efficiently transported debris and cleared the land for construction. Other ninjas contributed by moving rubble and assisting with groundwork, accelerating Shin Konoha's development. Meanwhile, far away in the land of lightning, Niji Hyuga completed his personal mission. He stood over the lifeless body of a Chunin, the final name on his list. Pulling out the worn page he had carried with him, Niji crossed out the last name and let out a long, weary sigh. It's done, he murmured. His vengeance was complete. The people responsible for his father's death were no more. Kneeling on the ground, Niji gazed up at the sky, his eyes brimming with tears. Father, do you see? I've avenged you. Naruto and Tsunade stood behind him silently, giving him the space to grieve. When Niji finally rose to his feet, the three of them prepared to leave the land of thunder. But not before Naruto left a final mark. He unleashed a tailed beast bomb, obliterating the daimyo's mansion. The destruction was a bold declaration of Shin Konoha's presence. The news spread like wildfire. The world learned of Shin Konoha's audacious raid on the land of lightning, the capture of the fourth Raikage and Killer Bee, and the destruction of the daimyo's mansion. Reactions were swift and varied. The world is changing, whispered one shinobi leader. Shin Konoha is rising, and the will of fire burns anew. Imposters, another spat. Konoha still stands. Let them fight it out, mused a third. The land of lightning is in shambles. Let's see how they handle this. Despite the chaos, no nation dared to attack the land of lightning. Though weakened, the land of lightning was still a formidable force. Its resources and remaining strength deterred opportunistic aggression. Back in Konoha, Sarutobi Hiruzen's fleeting satisfaction evaporated as the reports came in. Hearing of Shin Konoha's resounding success left him seething. He paced the Hokage's office, venting his frustration by smashing porcelain and furniture. Jiraiya watched helplessly from the corner, gesturing for the Anbu to replace the broken items. This is getting old, he muttered to himself. Konoha's struggles were mounting. Villagers were beginning to flee, seeking safety and stability elsewhere. Though Konoha could punish missing nin, they had no means of controlling the exodus of ordinary people. Shimura Danzo, ever the opportunist, approached Jiraiya with a freshly caught fish in hand. Take it, he said. Eat it and relax. Sarutobi's outbursts won't change anything. Danzo's uncharacteristic nonchalance left Jiraiya bemused. The man seemed oddly content, as if he had accepted Konoha's declining fortunes. In the Hyuga compound, Hiashi Hyuga read the reports pouring out of the Hokage's office. Though his face remained impassive, his heart swelled with pride and satisfaction. Ever since Hisashi's death, the Hyuga clan had harbored a deep resentment toward the land of lightning. For years, they had been powerless to act. But now, Hisashi's son, Niji, had delivered a crushing blow to their old enemy. Hiashi smiled faintly. Hisashi, you would be proud of your son. He has surpassed even our expectations. His gaze shifted to the ancestral hall, where he imagined Hisashi standing with a serene smile. The success of Niji's mission stirred something within Hiashi. Uzumaki Chito's words echoed in his mind. If your ambition has faded, reignite it. The Hyuga must innovate to survive. Hiashi realized the truth of those words. The Hyuga clan had stagnated for too long. It was time to adapt, to grow. Konoha was no longer the right place for them. The Hokage's growing distrust of the clan, fueled by Niji's defection, had eroded their standing within the village. Tasks once entrusted to the Hyuga had been reassigned to other families, leaving the clan marginalized. Hiashi knew this path all too well. It was the same one that had led to the downfall of the Uchiha. With renewed determination, Hiashi began to plan for the Hyuga clan's future, a future that might lie outside the confines of Konoha. Support me at patreon.com/goldengaruda and check out more chapter of this or more early access chapter of my other chapter. Comment. For comment. Vote.